And we're back. I Don't Drink Coffee Podcast, episode 5. Lucas Johnson back here.
How?
Major Duane Griffith, search and rescue pilot in the Air Force, currently stationed in
J-Bear Joint Base, Elmendorf, Richardson, Alaska.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
Elmendorf Air Force Base.
Can you spell that for us? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. J-B-E-R. J-Bear.
J. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, anyways, he's actually LJ's cousin.
Yep.
True
Grew up alongside of him. Yep.
I grew up with him as well. He was a grade ahead of me in school.
Class of 99, Wilburton. Yeah.
And what I remember most about you in high school was you were the guy that always came up with the chants at the high school games, like the girls while they were playing. You we had a good time.
Yeah.
It was really fun. But that's what I remember of Duane most.
Really?
Yeah, because he was hilarious. He would come up with.
Well, let me tell you, I have matured gracefully. Things have gotten better.
Should I cut that part out?
No, I don't care. Dude, it's like, well, talk about like maturity. So here I am, nearly 40. I'm a pilot flying in the Air Force, which I thought would be a big deal. I started out enlisted as an intelligence analyst, which we were talking about earlier. Then I thought, someday I'll be a pilot and an officer and I'll be a big deal or whatever. And it turns out, you're still just a, piece of the cog. But my maturity, so nothing's funnier to me than a big stinky fart. I mean, there's absolutely nothing better. And an awkward situation, no less.
Right.
And it was making me, so yeah, thank you for paying your taxes and you're welcome for my service. And it was maybe, I don't know why I thought about this just the other day, but you remember we were kids and that Bigfoot? You remember Pizza Hut used to make those Bigfoots?
Bigfoot pizzas, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You remember?
It was bad news for me, man.
You recall?
You just didn't like the Bigfoot pizza itself, or
I love Bigfoot pizzas.
oh,
Me and this guy destroyed one, right? And you were staying the night. We were living in that trailer house. We just moved back from Seminole. My mom, because my dad was in pharmacy school and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And you stayed the night, and I had that stupid fan that had like a reverse oscillation, so you could either make it like push down or pull up, Mm-hmm. And we ate this Bigfoot. Like we destroyed it, the two of us. We weren't little kids or anything. And I knew that fan had that option, and I waited till Lucas called which bunk he was going to, get in or whatever.
let me guess. He called. I got top bunk.
Got top bunk, and I made sure that fan was pulling the air up, And I'm pretty sure I gave him pink eye that night.
Yeah.
But at some point along the way, he figured it out, or I told you or something, and you pulled the old flipperoo there on me and started pushing it down on me, and yeah, got a little bit of payback there. That was fun.
Well, Pizza Hut pizza still does that to me to this day. Like we went to Pizza Hut last night, and I didn't sleep very well, man. I had my guts jacked up all night long. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's some special sauce they got or what's going on with it, but it tears me up pretty bad. It's been a big part of my life,
Yeah, pizza.
Pizza
You
Hut
ate at the Pizza Hut here in McAllister?
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
That was your first mistake.
why would you do that?
I thought it was going to be good, but it was not.
No, it
bad
hasn't
for
been
me.
good in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty gross. But on the upside, it got my kids to shut up.
Oh, okay.
So-
Well, I guess.
But
My wife is allergic to basil. I probably told you that before.
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so pizza's kind of a no-go in our house, which sucks because who doesn't like pizza?
Well, my
Right.
wife has a meat allergy.
Oh, yeah, you told me about
so
it, yeah.
get you some of that if you want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, we can't eat anything.
She tells me she's got a basil allergy. I thought this was like some little kid shit where you're making
did know
things
this.
up, so you don't want to eat certain things because I've never heard of anyone allergic to basil. But we're dating, and I take her out here to Pizza Place, and
Plenty of basil there.
Yeah, everything marinare's got basil and all that. And so I had these raviolis, and she reaches over and takes like a little chunk, just a little bite off my ravioli and puts it in her mouth. And I'm like, gotcha, you're not allergic to basil. This is some kind of bullshit deal or whatever. Dude, her face, like that movie Hitch. blew up. We had to run out and get her like Benadryl. And,
Seriously, like she has that kind of reaction,
like an anaphylactic will quit breathing reaction to basil. Yeah.
Oh God.
For that one little bite, I was like, okay, you're not lying. I get it.
So has it happened since? I mean, has any mistakes?
Well, that's because who doesn't like Italian food? And the other one, she loves Thai food, and Thai's got a lot of basil, so we got to be careful with that one too. Those are the two big ones.
So she just keeps something with her at all times, just in case.
Yeah, and if she has any doubt, she kind of starts slow with a bite. Wait, because if she starts getting itchy and throat closing up, it's like, all right, let's step. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, like I asked him, is there any medication that you can take to prevent?
She just knows. So we have an EpiPen if things go real south. I live in Alaska, so you're out in the middle of nowhere, and she has a reaction that you can, hopefully save your life. Otherwise, just the knowledge that it will, murder her. So,
wow,
that would be tough, man, because like.
I would think that's tougher than the red meat thing because
it's hard.
You don't know where it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, with the meat, you can kind of go, well, this is
it's either meat or not. Right?
Yeah, this has got beef in it or whatever. But that, I mean, basil could be in any damn thing, I guess. I mean,
yeah, it gets weird. Like you try to use different marinades or seasoning, and we have to read them and make sure if it says something like Italian seasoning in it, it's going to have basil in it.
Wow.
Huh.
So, but whatever. Minor inconvenience. I don't get pizza all the time. Oh God, first world problem. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I don't get to eat steak very often. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm afraid of.
That's terrible.
It is terrible,
Dude.
man. I'm telling you. And the bad thing is, whenever we first got together, she didn't have the allergy, and steak was our favorite thing. I mean, we would go and buy steaks, once or twice a week, and buy like ribeyes and bring them home and cook them and eat them. Well, then all of a sudden now she can't, so we just now I eat steak and she doesn't get to, So
Well, you fellas need to come up to Alaska then, if you're into pizza. That's what we're talking about, pizza, which I sorely miss in my life. That's the thing in Alaska. Like pizza's everywhere, like gourmet pizza joints. That's
really.
Are you serious?
It's kind of weird. Yeah, I mean, Anchorage is a pretty good sized city. It's probably probably like Tulsa sized or something like that. As far as population, it's not that sprawled out or big. But there's pizza joints everywhere, like high-end pizza.
Listen, I've told you a million times. All you got to do is land one of those C-130s out here at the airport. Pick me up. I'm with you. Yeah, I'm coming.
It'll fit. Actually, when I was in training at Corpus Christi, I was flying a King Air, little 2-engine, prop deal. I was supposed to be able to name my own cross country. I think I probably called you or Dustin or both. Dude, I'm gonna take this King Air and land it at McAllister. And that's where I'm going to do my cross country at. And it was like over Easter weekend, so I could hang out for the weekend and stuff. Last minute, my instructor changed, and it was some dude from Pittsburgh. And he's like, no, we're going to Pittsburgh. I'm like, okay. I was like, I thought this was my cross country. He said I got to pick where I went. Yeah, well, that ended because I want to go to Pittsburgh and see my family on Easter. I'm like, oh. So, of course, the instructor, trumped me on that. Yeah.
Jesus,
but the airport's big enough to handle a lot here. Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
big enough to handle a C-130?
Yeah. I don't know if it's stress tested or not. I'd have to get into a report and read up, but it's big enough. Yeah.
Wow.
Hell, Wilburton is big enough to land a Herc.
Yeah, but is there any doubt that it can take off?
No
doubt.
No doubt. Not unless you get to weighing too much, Not to talk all like nerdy airplane stuff, but
I kind of do because I'm an airplane nerd.
Well, I'm not.
I love
really,
airplanes.
and it's kind of weird, because
because you're around them all the time.
Well, not only that, but
you fly them.
I didn't grow up dreaming of being a pilot. It just kind of happened. No, I didn't. I never even thought about.
But your dad's a pilot, right?
Yeah, he had a private license. So still does, obviously.
And you wanted to do that at least, right? Or no?
Not really.
Really?
Well, dude. Okay, let's step back. When I enlisted in the Air Force, I took off as an intelligence analyst. And why did I pick Intel? Because it sounded way cooler than it was. In fact, I hated it. It was not really a fit for me. Well, I thought I was going to be like, because I wish I still had the job description as it was written back then. But it was like, bombs on target on time and working with foreign intelligence agents and blah, blah, blah. And in my head, I thought I was going to be James Bond and, parachuting out of airplanes. And,
so that's what you wanted to do, stuff like that.
Well, I don't know. And the key thing is this is pre 9/11. There ain't no 9/11 yet. There's no war. So a lot of stuff. I think my naivety when I joined, because the only person in our family that was ever in the military was our peepaw, who passed away when I was 15. So you were a couple years older. And and he retired from the Air Force as like a crew chief, I believe. And you know, he's dead and gone at 15. Well, I'll tell you, you know, it was around your junior year. You take your ASVAB. I don't know if you remember taking that, the military test. You know, your aptitude test.
Yes.
Well, you remember Dr. View?
Of course I do.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, you do, car guys and stuff. Yeah.
Roy View. We talked about him on the last podcast.
I love that man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, you know, you get that day where the Army guy comes in and gives everybody the test, you know. So my junior year, I had braces, you know, for like 5 years. So
Yep.
I get them off my junior year finally. And that was the day they did that ASVAB test. And so I go in, and they're like still in the middle of the test, about to finish. And I go in, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Do I go see Dr. View? I go see Dr. View. And I'm like, do I have to come back and take this again or something? You know, Dr. View's kind of half hippie or something anyway, I think. And he looks at me, and he's like, are you really going to join the military? And I was like, no. He's like, no, dude, you're not taking that test. So I never took it, you know. And I'm like, I ain't going to military or whatever. Well, fast forward a few years later, I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. You know, I went to college for a couple of years, no degree picked out. I don't know, and I wanted to travel. I was like, I need to get out and see something. So decided the military was a way to do it. And this is how dumb and naive I was at the time. Again, pre 9/11. I mean, other than in military-wise, you think back, if you weren't really into military stuff, you knew about, like, I don't know, Navy SEALs or pilots and stuff like that, you know, the big stuff. But the general military, this is how stupid I was. I didn't realize there was a difference between the Air Force, the Army, the Marines, and Navy. I was like, it's all the military. I don't know. You know, it's all this, they all do military stuff, I guess. And my dad actually was like, well, I've always been told that the dumbasses join the Army and shit. I'd go join the Air Force. It's like, okay. So I went over there, took the test for them, and enlisted in the Air Force, you know. Then, I get stationed in England, and in a fighter squadron, I get some backseat rides in the F-15. And, yeah, I've got something like
so awesome.
17 hours or something like that in the back of an F-15D. And it's not even that I had a flying bug then, but I was like, part of it was ego. I was like, man, if these dudes can do this, I can do this, because they're not. In my head, I thought to be a pilot, you had to be super smart. That is a lie. If anyone ever thought that was a thing.
Yeah, but you're super smart, so you would say that.
Clearly, yeah. Yeah, Princeton was knocking down my door, so I enlisted in the military. That's what happened.
I remember you in high school. You were smart.
But, yeah, so I decided I was going to try to be a pilot, and I figured out what I had to do to make that happen, and got my pilot's license, and, you know, took Big D on a flight and all that stuff for 2, and went back to college there at OSU, got my degree, which that's to commission in the Air Force to fly an airplane, you have to have a 4-year degree, and that's why I went and got a 4-year degree.
But didn't you do it in like half the time? Didn't you take a bunch of classes or something like that?
Because he's not that smart, right?
Right. Well, I was just, I mean, I remember you cramming a lot of stuff into each semester, right, to hurry up and get through with it?
Yeah, I was taking 21, 24 hours a semester just as fast as I could. Part of it was once I just finally decided, all right, well, I'm going to try to be a pilot. Well, I had 2 things going through my head. So I did 4 years in active duty, got out of active duty, joined the Air National Guard at Tulsa, because there in Oklahoma, it pays your tuition. 100% of your tuition is paid if you go to an in-state school, right? So, you know, I went to school at NSU and all that stuff, and so I had some hours and all that. And then your military training counts for some college and all that other junk. So I go to OSU, which is my family thing. I know you guys make fun of OSU or whatever, but, you know.
It is what it is.
Hey, dude, you know.
That's why you were taking so many hours, because you needed to get out of Stillwater.
I love Stillwater. It was good. But, you know, dude, my grandpa went to Oklahoma A&M, you know, before he went to vet school at Oklahoma State. And then my dad, everyone in my family went there.
Gavin's wanting to go to OSU. He's talking real heavy about going to OSU.
So clearly you raised one right. So
yeah, you know, we do what we can on that end. But
yeah, no.
Anyways, go back to your stuff.
No, I just, when I got out of active duty, I had 2 thoughts in my head. One, trying to be a pilot in the Air Force, and 2, or 1 and 1A, I should say, was being a veterinarian like my grandpa. I really interested in trying to go to vet school. Probably remember my grandpa.
Absolutely.
We spent a lot of time at your grandpa's shop there,
Yes.
getting old pickups fixed and stuff.
Yep.
And anyway.
And I took my dog to your grandpa several times.
Yeah. Yeah, old Duke's shop there. Spent a lot of time there. Anyway, long story longer, back in school, and I go and enroll to do animal science with like a pre-vet option. Well, come to find out, you got to have a lot of schooling to be a veterinarian. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Right. Yeah. Generally a doctor.
It's almost like a doctor, or it is a doctor, yes.
And also, it is very hard to get into vet school. Like, there's, I think, 28 vet schools in the entire country, with OSU being that. Yes, versus like 180 or 200 medical schools. It's actually easier to get into medical school, is what I'm saying. So, and it was going to take me about 3 years to get my undergrad credits done, taking these, not easy classes. And I'm getting older because I'd just done 4 years in the Air Force after enlisting a little bit later, And so, long story longer, I went back to my advisor and I'm like, is there something I can do to get out of here, like right now, with a degree in anything? And so they, crunched the numbers and stuff. And they're like, well, if you switch to sociology, you got whatever, 50 credit hours and get you out of here. I'm like, done. And it was a total gamble because if it hadn't worked out or if I'd failed medically or anything had happened along the way, I would have had a worthless degree and not been a pilot. But it worked out, whatever. The whole deal, I was kind of long story to get back to when I started the whole deal. I had no thought of flying. It wasn't a thing in my head. And when I joined the Air Force, like I was saying, I really didn't know there was a difference between that and the Marine Corps, which sounds stupid now. But 9/11 happens, when I'm in basic training. I'm like in my third week. And I thought that whole thing was like a put on. I swore they were screwing with us, Like this is some...
That day, that's what you thought?
Yeah. Well, and I happened to be one of only a few people that knew that something had happened. Because, you're not watching TV in basic training. You're running around and marching and all that crap.
Okay.
Well, I happened to got lucky. So me and another dude... in my flight, needed security clearances. And so to get your top secret clearances and all that, and I was going into intelligence, he was going into EOD, the explosive ordnance disposal, the bomb guys. And so you got to have a clearance to do those two jobs. Pre-9/11, again. So military is kind of, I think at that time was kind of low on people's radar cross-section. It wasn't something, people were thinking about a lot. And I remember we're in there filling out this paperwork, and this is they didn't let you have a computer, and the internet still, this is 2001, so the internet's what it is back then. So they give you a little cubicle and a phone and like a logbook, and you're supposed to fill out all this paperwork about, your whole life, which growing up in Wilburton, never going anywhere, didn't take me too long, And so you're supposed to call, Lucas was one of my people that knew me well. I had to list that he got interviewed by, one of the G-men or whatever they call those guys. I don't know.
He was military dude. That's all I know. Yeah. It was like in his dress stuff when he came to talk to me. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was weird. He just knocked on my door. So, Duane Griffith, huh? I'm like, yeah, it was a very strange. It's the only real, I would say, connection I ever had to the military, like hardcore, as far as, you hear all this stuff about stuff. Then this dude's asking you questions, and it legit has to do with like your security clearance, So I felt like I had to weigh every answer that I had. I'm sure this guy's like, is he trying to hide something? Yeah. I'm over there sweating yes, I know him.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm related to him.
Everything's with the question mark.
Yeah, I'm like, tell me if I'm getting this wrong. What's the right answer?
Is this related to the Cubans?
Yeah. He's like, this is just... we have to do this
He's
part.
Like, relax. Okay, relax.
He's like, you're making this take way too long, dumbass.
I need to get out of here.
Yeah. There's nothing special about this. Just get through my list of questions so I can go on.
So you're sitting in the cubicle.
Yeah, so we're in a room. It's not much bigger than this room. Imagine all the desks facing this way. And up on the wall, there's a TV, hanging up high, right? And so we're all facing that way, and you got the phone, so you can call Lucas Johnson and be like, hey, dude, what's your current address? Is there another number so I can give to the dude to go intimidate him about, whatever, the bodies in my basement? And so anyway, we're in there, doing our thing. There's a whole room about this size full of people working on their security clearance stuff, which was nice because it got you out of the basic training thing for a few hours. You're not getting yelled at and stuff. Well, I remember this fat, bald guy comes in, probably tech sergeant type, and he turns on the TV. And the towers are burning, and
you're like, they're playing this.
Yeah. I'm like, this is a setup.
Welcome to basic training.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to war, are we? Oh, okay. We better,
Or the people that actually believe it, and they're like, I'm got to find a way out of here. I got to find a way out of basic training because I'm fixing to go over there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and there was a lot of that once we kind of figured out, like, oh, well, that actually happened.
Now, were there guys that was trying to get out of it?
Well, I wouldn't say guys going to get out of it, but it was weird.
They weren't as enthusiastic about it at that point.
There was a lot of, hey, I'm here to go to college and none of this war shit, kind of thing. And I remember a lot of dudes crying and stuff. And I rember it kind of aggravating me, like, you all knew this could happen.
Yeah, what are you doing here? Yeah.
That was kind of aggravating. I'm no, badass. And it is what it is. But it was kind of surreal, because I was like, again, first. And the other thing, they kind of cut us off for about 3 days. They didn't tell us what was going on or nothing. But me and this other dude had seen this, like, on TV, and people were talking,
Damn, that would be weird.
Yeah.
Very weird. I can only imagine.
And so me and this other guy go back and tell our whole flight, like, yeah, I think someone, like, blew up some buildings in New York or something. Like, what? And then it got weird because you're matched up with a female flight. So there's, like, all dudes, obviously, in one flight, and you're paired up to a sister flight full of girls. And one of the girls in the sister flies, we found out about day 3, they came and brought us into our day room, set us down. They're like, all right, look, these dudes flew these airplanes into these towers in New York. Things are ramping up. Get ready, blah, blah, blah. Get your training face on. Let's finish it and get you out in the operational, world so you can go out and fight the war or whatever. And one of the girls in the sister flight got pulled, I remember. At first it was rumors, and then come to find out her fiance, not her husband, was in one of the airplanes that.
Damn.
Yeah, like she was from New York or Boston or whatever. I don't know. So they pulled her out of training, and I was like, oh, like there's some real stuff going down. This is not, and it's weird how things go from when you enlist and there's nothing going on, to in my case, I'm like, I just want to do something cool and go travel a little bit to like, oh, now we got to go to war,
What was it? I'm kind of curious, and I don't mean to stop you too early or anything, but did you notice, other than people's attitudes, was there like a big difference in the way the military operated? I know you were in basic, so it'd be hard for you to get a gauge on it, but I'm just saying, did you notice anything from that time forward as far as the way the military did things? Or
no, and it's kind of hard whenever, because I was pre 9/11 military for 3 weeks, so like I didn't really have anything.
That's what I mean. I didn't know if you could, if there was any. Yeah. I know you don't really have a frame of reference, I guess.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, things started ramping up after that. Operations, AFSCs or MOSs, you'd call it in the Army or Marines or whatever, started getting more in demand, and it was kind of weird. Intel, of all career fields to enlist in, became super high demand because after 9/11, of course, they stood up the Department of Homeland. If I could talk, Homeland Security, FBI, DEA task force. Intel analysts got to be in high demand, so they actually stop-lossed our career field a few times along the way. Where if it was your time to get out, you ain't getting out. You're stuck for a little bit, which caused some disgruntled folks, obviously.
I'm sure.
Stuff,
Yeah.
But fortunately or unfortunately for me, my first duty assignment was Lakenheath in England, which is pretty cool for a single dude, getting to travel.
Now, how soon after you got out of basic and stuff did you deploy?
Well, that's what I was getting to. A little bit, but we can go back to whatever. But so Lakenheath, I get assigned to an F-15C squadron, which is where I got these rides in F-15D, which is so C model is a single seat air superiority fighter. All they are designed to do is shoot other airplanes down, basically, right? The D model was a trainer, a 2-seater. That's the one I got to ride in the back of. And then you have Strike Eagles, the E models, which actually they do both, right? They're multi-role, so they can drop bombs and shoot down your bad guys, right? Well, after 9/11, go to Afghanistan. There ain't no air war in Afghanistan. They ain't flying nothing.
Right.
Flying, yeah.
Good luck, to them.
Yeah, flattened out donkey turds you could throw like frisbees, I guess, or something. Well, then 03 rolls around. We go to Iraq. They learned their lesson from the previous Gulf War, and they actually took their fighter aircraft and buried them.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's not classified or anything. That's open. You can Google it and read about it. Because they knew if they flew, they're going to get shot down. They're flying these old, crappy Russian jets that are old, and we were flying old crappy jets too. They're just a lot better than their old crappy jets, And so, and I'm in a air-to-air superiority, unit. So we're not deploying. My deployments those first couple of years, we kind of called them deployments, but I spent like a month in Cagliari, Italy. Spent like a month in Leeuwarden, Netherlands. month or so in Rostock, Germany. We were doing just these exercises going around, and stuff like that. I got to travel, and it was fun. I got to do a lot of cool stuff. But I actually, so I left Lakenheath, went to Omaha, and was in a joint intelligence center doing Russian, a Russian tactical air analyst or something. I don't even remember. Whatever. At that point, I, once again, not into intel, wasn't digging it. Spent a lot of time in a windowless room on a computer, And long story longer, I got an opportunity to deploy then as an Army augmentee with an intelligence battalion from Fort Gordon. So I volunteered and went for that at first time for 6 months. So it took me nearly 4 years to get a deployment. And I volunteered because I didn't want to get out of 4 years, because for all I knew, I'd never get back in. I was like, I'm not getting out without saying I at least deployed once, So I spent 6 months with that Army unit doing intel work. And it wasn't, I don't know, it sucks being deployed, but like it wasn't that bad. Wasn't married or anything then, obviously. And so it wasn't too bad. Didn't do anything super cool. We got, where our base was close to Route Irish, which at the time was the most deadly highway in the world or whatever. But once again, man, if there's anything I can say to emphasize, I'm not a Navy SEAL. I'm not a pararescueman, a PJ. I'm not a Delta Force guy or whatever. I'm not that super operator guy. I've never fired a round downrange. Had a few fired back at me, but I've never put one downrange. So I'm not no badass or nothing like that. But, it's different. You're out there, and you get this Route Irish, people running convoys, and so all night you could sit out there and, like, listen to booms and IEDs, and you see tracers and stuff. You're like, there's actually a war going on right there,
I bet that was trippy, dude. I mean, knowing that you're not going to be involved in it, I guess, you kind of get a spectator type feeling about it.
Well, you probably didn't know you were not going to be involved, though, right? I mean, when you get some shot at you, you're pretty involved.
Well, it's all it's all relative, like because they'd have deals there in Iraq where dudes, I guess, would pull up to the gates and spray bullets and run off, and you'd see the tracers and they'd come in and stuff. But they're not, you know what I mean? Like they're directed in your general direction, but it's not like there's some dude out there shooting at you. And what am I going to do? Shoot into the back of a T barrier?
Right.
I mean, it's always in the back of your head. Something could go down, but like I said, I'm not a tier 1 dude who's out there slitting throats and all that kind of stuff.
So this was in Iraq?
Yeah, that was my first deployment.
And you were there for how long?
That one was 6 months. Yeah, with an Army unit.
Golly.
And the only thing I guess I got to do that was tactical was I buddied up with our logistics officer, who was a Army pilot, helicopter guy, and was telling him, hey, I'm thinking about wanting to be a pilot maybe, and he's like, you ever been on a helicopter? Nope. He's like, well, guess what? I'm going to put you on a security detail, and you're going to be security for this UH-60 flight that's going out.
Nice.
Whatever. So he threw me on there. I think I've shown you pictures or whatever, but I'm this Air Force senior airman, and they gave me this bandolier of all this ammo I had to carry, like it was heavy, because I'm the security detail. And I go in there and sit on this helicopter all day. And, I've seen Black Hawk Down and all that, and I've never been on a helicopter before, so I'm like, we're going to get shot down any second. I'm just waiting for the tracers to fly. Nothing happened. Nothing. It was like 12 hours of just taking off. Like, we were picking people up, land at a different fob, drop them off. Pick people up. That's all day. Just,
But was that, was that pretty cool, though? Or did it get old?
For the first 2 or 3 hours.
Oh, yeah. Like, okay.
Yeah. And then you're like, okay, I'm ready to get off this thing, But anyway.
Well, that okay, that kind of gets your first deployment. Then help me with the timeline, man, because
I want to go back to basic training real quick. When they said, listen, and you had 1 week left, right?
No, it was 6 weeks back then,
6
so I was
weeks.
about halfway done, yeah.
How did it change?
Well, it changed a lot because, again, this is Air Force, so anyone who's been in the Army or Marine Corps, something like that, probably hears this and will laugh, but you have a 1 week that's called, what was it called back then? Warrior Week, where you go out in the field and you go qualify at the time with an M16, and, they teach you all that kind of stuff, how to break down your rifle and clean it, and you go camping basically for a week. Well, after 9/11, they canceled that for a week or two. I got to go, so I think I was the first class that got back to it. Uniform change requirements. Used to, and you're starting to see it again now, I think, if you go jump on a commercial flight. Used to, you'd always see dudes in their uniform, flying. And I'm starting to see guys do it again now, but that was a no-go after 9/11 for a long time. You
Really?
do not wear a uniform on it. Yeah, you will wear civilian clothes if you're getting on a commercial flight.
Even as a pilot?
Well, I wasn't a pilot back then.
Oh, I'm just talking about. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I'm lost.
Yeah,
Sorry.
just any military person. If you're getting in a commercial flight, obviously a military plane, but I'm talking about commercial.
Right. And why? Why was that?
And why are you being targeted?
Oh, okay.
Like if there are more terrorists out there ready to do whatever. And then just general, more BDUs, less blues, which was nice because I hate blues. But it's kind of like a lot. It's kind of like a lot of things, man. You go to basic training, and I remember the first week thinking marching was cool. This is like military shit. I'm marching. Dude, after about week 3, I would rather do anything but march. I hated that, And it's kind of like wearing your blues at first. That's an honor because that kind of signifies, and I think it's probably the same in all the services. You're getting close to the end of basic training, and you finally get to wear them, and you're like, yes, I'm wearing these things. Again, I would rather wear a burlap sack, It's uncomfortable, and you get that Tommy Boy fat guy in a little coat
kind of
thing.
curious because especially after you deployed the first time, I had all kinds of crap going on in my life at that time. So it wasn't that I didn't care about what you had going on, but you were really busy and you were gone. You know what I mean? So the timeline's kind of hazy for me from the standpoint of after you deployed the first time.
I came back and got out of the active duty immediately, almost immediately.
Is that when that happened? Okay, yeah.
So I got back from that deployment, I think, around August of 2005, I think, yeah. And separated active duty, which is a whole other story. I turned down a very big bonus, which I was kicking myself for at the time, but I hated the job. I didn't like intel, wasn't my cup of tea. And I wanted to do something different. I knew if I was going to stay in the Air Force or the military, I wanted to do something operational. And at that point, I decided it was going to be flying because, I'm too big a pansy to go try out to be a PJ or something. I almost tried out once and talked myself out of it.
I remember when you were talking about it a little bit. Yeah.
And those guys, hats off. You familiar with PJs or what they do? Or
somewhat. Go ahead.
They're kind of like the Air Force version of a Navy SEAL. I mean, they're our special operations guys. They go out and do the real deal. And in Alaska, we have a whole squadron full of them. I fly with them every day. A lot of good friends there. We go hunting together, fishing together, drinking too much together. And I'm always in awe every once in a while because I forget that they do these crazy things and out there, saving people's lives. They're combat, they're special operations combat medics basically, but they get embedded with SEAL teams and recon teams or Rangers or whatever, because that's their thing. And I gather they're pretty well respected in the special operations community because they're lifesavers kind of thing, but they murder people to save lives,
Right.
They're combat, dudes.
But they also are the medic part too.
Well, that is their primary. They're all qualified paramedics. That's their primary gig, and they're kind of changing their structure now. And I'm not going to talk about it because I'm not smart on it. But typically, we used them in combat. Like when I deployed as an aircrew guy, these guys will go out with, snake eating teams, and that's what they do. They shoot bad guys and then patch up the good guys, when they get hurt. And anyway, I hang out with these dudes, and I kind of forget that they do all these crazy things. And then, you'll be out at hunting camp or something and a little bit too much whiskey, and then they start telling stories, and you're like, holy, what you do is not what I do, that's, or you go to a Silver Star presentation for someone, and you're like, oh, that's my buddy, we're out there, whatever, shooting the shit. And you stand at attention, and they read the citation, and it's like, oh, yeah, he called in, 47 airstrikes, danger close, killed 37 enemy combatants, all this stuff. And you're like, yeah, okay, that's not what I do. That's
that's not the guy I know.
Yeah, you guys are different humans. But, that you talk to them, they would never, you'd never know it unless, you're a little tuned up and they like you enough to tell you stories. But, what was the whole point of my story? I don't know. They're different.
Well, you were saying that you were thinking about doing that at one point.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of weird. A really good friend I had when I was stationed in England there went through probably the worst military divorce I've ever been around. And I can tell that story later if you want to, but it was messed up big time. So anyway, he goes through this divorce.
I've got to know.
Oh, you want to know?
No, you can tell me later.
Okay.
Or tell us later.
Okay. It was a jacked up deal. But anyway, he was in pretty good shape already, and I don't know, man. Like I played football and basketball and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But until I joined the military, I'm pretty sure I had never ran 2 miles. Like, why would I have ever ran 2 miles, or a mile and a half or whatever, especially for time? I'm not doing that. Come clock my 40, And so, you get in the military, that was kind of a shock too. Like, oh, I got to run 2 miles.
They don't care if you can run the 40.
Yeah. You got to do 2 miles, and it's not high standards. I mean, anyone can pass, but. So anyway, my buddy goes to this big divorce, and he was already in pretty good running shape already. He was a runner. Well, now he's like in his early 30s, I think, at the time, and I'm 21 or so, and he having a little bit of a crisis now that his wife, he just went through all this ordeal, and he was like, dude, we're gonna get in. And this was an Intel guy too, but a guy that shouldn't have been in Intel because he was kind of redneckish like me, and we were into like K5 Blazers and crap, and talking about stuff. So he's like, we're going to get in shape. And next door at Mildenhall Air Force Base, they had a SOG, a Special Operations Group, where they had open tryouts for pararescue and combat control, which are our 2 special operations guys. And he's like, we're going to get in shape for that, and we're going to go try out, because he's having this kind of crisis. And I'm like, yeah, that's what we're going to do, And so we were doing these 3-a-days where like, and I got probably the best shape of my life. I'll give him that. But we'd go in the mornings and we'd run a lot. We'd go at our lunch break and we'd swim for like an hour. Then we'd go back after work and lift weights for a couple hours. I mean, we were doing this 5 days a week for months, And for me, I got in really good shape. He was got in better shape. He's already in good shape. To the point where I think I might have been able to pass the selection, like to the basic one. I don't know if I would have or not, or if I'd have made it. Well, he ended up getting kind of a short notice deployment. And so he left, and I'm like, my support there, and so I ain't gonna lie and be like, because you always hear guys like, well, I was gonna be a SEAL and I was gonna do this, or I was
right.
No, dude, I chickened out. I didn't even try. I was like, and part of it too was even if you made it at the time, I think it was like a additional 6-year enlistment, and I was like,
if they're gonna dump the money into you, they want to make sure you stay. Yeah, I can see that.
But
so you were that close. You were like at a fork in the road, and he left, and you were like, "Yep, I'm going left."
Yeah. My support left, and I folded like a deck of cards. I was like, "Nope, too scared."
Now, did you ever talk to him again or anything? I mean,
we stayed in touch for a long time. About the time I got selected to go to pilot training was, I think, the last time I spoke to him and his wife.
Was he like, "What are you doing, man? You're not going the route we said we were going to go"?
No, well, I'd seen him since because he came back from the deployment and everything. Actually, got stationed with me in Omaha, so he came to the same assignment. And I told him then, like, no, I'm working on my pilot's license.
Did he go that route?
No, he got out completely, and for good reason, because of his previously mentioned divorce.
So what happened there?
Dude, so this guy gets stationed in England, had been previously stationed at Nellis, which is Las Vegas, Nevada, right? His wife, so I think he was like 31 or 32 at the time, something like that. His wife's same age. They were like high school sweethearts from like Indiana or something, right? Well, my buddy, he probably looked older than 32. He's a little weathered, and stuff, whatever. Not fat or anything. He was super good shape. But he looked a little older, kind of bald already and stuff, And his wife was, to his credit, was very attractive, good looking. And she probably could have passed for early 20s, I mean, she was a real pretty blonde gal. Well, they go from Vegas to England. He comes home from work one day and she's gone. And they got two kids, 2 boys. And one of them was a little bit older, and I think they were like 7 and 12 or something like that. And the 12-year-old, he gets home, the 12-year-old taking care of the 7-year-old. I'm like, hey, where's mom? And they're like, oh.
She left the kids there?
I haven't seen mom. She's gone. No one knew where she went. Like, he goes and files like missing person reports and stuff. Like, this guy, she's just gone. Well, he gets the summons for his divorce hearing back in Las Vegas, Nevada, because she had just got on a plane and flown back to Las Vegas and filed for divorce, right? Wanting custody of the kids and the whole spiel, just left, And so he's like, okay, well, mom's not dead, and that's good, and she's alive and wants to divorce me, And according to him, he never saw this coming, which I believe. And so what had happened, to kind of make a long story longer, this gal had been cheating on this guy with another Air Force dude who was a major in the Air Force and a pilot, F-16 pilot at a squadron there at Nellis Air Force Base. So she flew back to live with this dude and then filed for divorce because I guess when you do that, all divorce hearings have to take place back in Las Vegas, which
know that.
bankrupted this dude because he was like a staff sergeant, a mid-level enlisted guy. And so it cost him, and at that point, though, he was like, I am keeping my kids, so he fought tooth and nail and went bankrupt. It financially drained him. Well, when they finalized the divorce, the last one, and he got custody of his kids and the whole deal, the dude that she had left him for is waiting for him after his hearing and is like, introduces himself like, hey, I'm whatever, Greg, or whatever his name was, the guy that your wife left you for. I just want to let you know that I had no idea that she was married. I had no idea she had kids. I didn't know any of this was a thing, and I kicked her out. I found out what's going on, and she is homeless right now. I kicked her out of in the street. And so she led this double life for who knows how long, and then left the kids so that homeboy didn't catch on the fact that she had kids, and then pulled that whole deal on him and financially. Jesus. And so she was homeless, and then, but the funny thing is, my buddy was told me
he took her back.
No, she's super pretty. In Vegas. It took her like 6 months and she was remarried, to some like accountant or something, like, some older guy was like, okay, So anyway, it was one of the weirder kind of divorce military things I've seen.
So you separated from the military, jumped into college.
Yeah.
And you already had it in your mind then. Now, you were saying you didn't know if you were going to be a pilot at that time, or you did know? I
was kind of balancing the whole, like, do I want to try to go to vet school if I can get in, or do I want to be a pilot? And the reality is, if you want to be a military pilot, the clock's ticking. You can't be an old man and go do it. And at that time, when I'm 25, getting out to go back to college, at the time, and they changed it, you had to be 28 by the time you started training without a waiver. It's now 30, I believe. And so, or maybe it was 30 then even. Either way, it doesn't matter. If I'd went the vet route just to get my prereqs done, I would have pushed me over 30. And so, or at 30. And so I made a choice to switch it up. Like, all right, well, if this doesn't work, I can always try to be a vet another time. But if I don't do this now, I'm going to get too old and never know if I could have done this.
The window was closing on the old pilot dream. Yeah. I see that.
Like I said, a lot of it was ego. It wasn't growing up wanting to fly. I was just like, if these guys can do this, I can do this, And, it's been a cool career. And, now that I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's cool because it's the closest thing to playing sports and stuff like when we grew up that I've ever done. It's basic, math and science. There's all that stuff involved. Hey, dude, I fly the airplane. I didn't build it, So like the thing works on magic. A lot of the stuff, as far as I'm concerned. But you
whatever, man. You got to know the system. I know. So I don't want to hear that.
A little bit, Don't want to scare you, but. No, man. Well, it's one of those things, like, especially when you're a young pilot, you want to learn everything and just cram it all in your head and all the knowledge. You want to be the most knowledgeable person there is. As you get older and you do it for a while, you're like, can I do anything about that valve? Okay, I don't care. Like, I will safely put this aircraft back where it needs to be. I don't care what happened.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so... But that's the best part to me is the crew. More than I like flying, and flying in Alaska is cool, and doing actual civil search and rescue missions. I've flown about 50-ish, I would guess, civil search and rescue missions. For dudes crashing planes and stuff in remote Alaska. I've flown about 100 combat missions, doing medevac mostly. And then at the Rescue Coordination Center where I work now. Coordinating missions, I don't know how many I've coordinated, probably close to 100 again, because it's just different. It's when you're flying, you get an occasional mission. When you're working the place that coordinates the missions, you get a lot of them.
Yeah.
So,
right.
But the best part of the whole deal is having a crew, because it's like playing football again or something. Like you're whatever captain of the team or whatever, and you're making stuff happen, and it's like a lot of corny leadership stuff, but if you don't know how to lead, you're probably never going to know how to lead. And so I think that's the more rewarding part is when you don't have to demand respect. You just get it because it's earned, and that's kind of the way I've always approached it. Because there are those douchebags out there that are like, you will respect my rank, and it's like, I will. Well, in the Air Force and the military in general is a weird deal for flying because you probably equate everything you know about flying to the airlines, I'm sure, right? Like the captain is the dude in charge of the airplane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you would assume that guy's compensated accordingly. He's probably the highest paid guy on that aircraft. And you would be correct because he has the most responsibility. And everything eventually, falls back on him to make sure that aircraft is operated safely and gets where it needs to be. It doesn't work that way in the Air Force. You got two pilots in the aircraft I fly, the HC-130J Combat King 2. You have 3 officers on the cockpit, in the cockpit. 2 pilots and a CISO, combat systems operator, used to be called a navigator. And I've ran into this situation before where I'm the lowest ranking officer on that aircraft and in charge of that aircraft. And it's weird. So in essence, I could have a co-pilot at the time if I was a captain, and I had a co-pilot who was a major or lieutenant colonel and a navigator who's like a lieutenant colonel. And I'm a captain. I'm the lowest rank. I'm getting paid less than every swinging Richard on that flight deck. But my name is on that piece of paper that says in charge, pilot in command, aircraft commander, we call it in the Air Force. So it's kind of strange.
Well, does it feel like a privilege, or does it feel heavy, or is it enough of a brotherhood? I would assume since you guys are all pilots that you kind of work mostly, it out or whatever. But
yeah, everyone gets it. They respect that position because it's not a rank; it's a position. The aircraft commander. So you don't ever. I've never ran into issues where someone's tried to pull rank on me because it's like, hey, guess what, dude? I don't give a shit if you were colonel. Go sit down. I've heard of that happening. It's never happened to me. Yeah. Well, because you'll get, dudes who are, well, you look at this. I outrank you, and like, well, not in this airplane. You don't.
Whenever let's see here now. You were talking about you got out of college, you got back into the military, right?
I never technically left. I went from active duty to the Air Guard in Tulsa, and then. That's right. Yeah, and then the way the Air National Guard works a little bit different than active duty when it comes to if you want to be a pilot is kind of more of a civilian process. You put together an application, a package, letters of recommendation, all kind of stuff. You send it to a board. Someone goes through your application and they will select you for an interview. Well, active duty is just paper boards. They look and like, all right, you get to be a pilot. You don't. You do. You don't. Whatever. Well, in the Air National Guard, you actually show up and sit down and get asked questions, and someone determines whether or not they think you fit in and then select you for training through that process. It's a little bit different. So I was still in the Air Guard in Tulsa, finished at Okie State, got my degree in December of 2006, and then I applied for pilot training with the Alaska Air National Guard in March of 2007, so a couple months later. Sent the package out in January of 2007, and then got called for an interview, flew up to Alaska in March, first time I'd ever been there in my life. Did an interview and fooled them, I guess, because they hired me. And,
did they tell you on the spot? Did they say you're in, or they just fucking sent you back and whatever happens, happens?
Yeah, because Alaska's weird, too, compared to other units because they have so many aircraft types that they do interviews for like days. It's not one day of interviews. It's like 30, 40, 50 people get interviewed over like a week. And then they make their selections at the end of the week. I know this now because I just did a board a few years ago, hired a person. So over a week, you debate on, fight other squadrons of who you want. You make a selection, and then you give them a call. Hey, heads up, we're going to select you, blah, blah, blah. And then you get an official letter in the mail and all that kind of stuff.
So whenever you're applying for these things, are you applying for specific aircraft, or how is that broken down?
Yeah, because you said pilot training. You went for pilots. I didn't know if you knew exactly what you were going for. Well,
you do and you don't. So again, Alaska's unique because they have so many airframes
and Eskimos
and that, and polar bears.
Have you met any Eskimos?
A few.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that's politically correct, Ben. Yeah.
Are they nice people?
Back to your Back to your rice conversation.
Yeah.
Is it
Inuit?
You can't call them Eskimos?
No, I think you can. It depends. I don't know. There's a lot of this PC stuff I haven't quite got my head
They're like,
around.
no, we're Americans. Is that what they?
Inuit, the Inuit, or I don't know. They have different names. No, I mean,
I'm gonna make a lot of people mad at me in Alaska now. I'm not gonna be safe to go there.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
So when you pick
I'm kind of tied to this too. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm sorry.
Let's think about it a little bit. Let's choose our words.
Are they gonna get mad? Should I cut this out?
No, I don't think so.
You can't say
Just put that.
Can you say Eskimo?
Damn sure better put that in the podcast that you said that.
I didn't know you couldn't say Eskimo.
I think you can. I don't think it's a big
Joe's,
deal,
man.
Yeah,
I mean that's.
yeah. I think you can. I think you're fine.
Do you wear Eskimo Joe's?
I don't, dude. Again, 1 million people in my family went to OSU every year. Since I was born, I get an Eskimo Joe something for Christmas. I've got shirts. There's probably homeless people walking around Anchorage with my old Eskimo Joe shirts right now.
Okay.
You get so many of them.
Okay.
And you got to get rid of them and, whatever.
So I don't want any hate mail from anyone.
Oh, I will take hate mail. We'll take any mail.
Well, do they have email, Eskimos? I'm not supposed to say that either, am I?
What are we?
That's a bad question, isn't it?
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
But seriously, do they? I don't know about Eskimos. Obviously,
we talking about Eskimos.
I'm gonna cut this part out.
I can't follow you right now because I don't know what the fuck we're doing.
It was just a
You went
joke.
from pilot training to Eskimos like
It started as a joke.
See, and that's the stuff that you got to keep in.
fuck me up.
Okay, I'll keep it in then.
I was like, okay,
it's
we're
not a
going with
big
this
deal.
Eskimo thing. All right.
I mean, do they live in igloos or do they have homes or what?
Nah. No, it's,
Who knows? You know.
yeah. There's small villages scattered around the state, and they.
Okay, the villages, are they homes?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not. It's not what you would think. Like, you're in Anchorage or Fairbanks.
It's not what you learned when you were a kid about Eskimos having the igloos.
You mean
and
what
stuff.
you saw in cartoons? You know what I'm saying? I mean, ain't nobody lived in an igloo in fucking probably 200 years.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
I did not know
Well,
that.
not with that attitude, they won't.
I like to keep up with current affairs, man, but Eskimos not on my radar until a guy walks in that's lives there.
Well, dude, Anchorage. So if you live in Anchorage, Alaska, if you live in Alaska in general, but Anchorage and probably Fairbanks too, and Juneau and the bigger cities. The thing about Alaska is that like nobody in Alaska is from Alaska. So around Anchorage, there's you got 2 big military bases. The J Bear I told you about, Fort Richardson's Army side, Elmendorf is the Air Force side. A lot of oil field folks, come through Alaska. A lot of people, I don't know, probably running from the law or who knows what else. But I mean, very rarely do you meet people who are like born and raised in Alaska, in Anchorage anyway. So it's just, it's one of those cities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those, I'm not going to stay there forever. When I retire, I'll plan on moving back home too. It's just, it's a transient
because
place.
it either stays daylight too long or dark too long or it's balls cold.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of, I hate to say that there's a lot to hate about Alaska. I wouldn't say that, but it's like, it's a pretty extreme.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in my way of thinking, you kind of got to want to be there, I guess. Or in your case, I guess you wanted to be. But.
Part of it was, we remember when we were kids, I was really into fishing, kind of probably unhealthy, fish something going on. But I was the dude, when VHS tapes came out and all that kind of stuff, and you could go down to Craig's Video or whatever it was and rent, a movie. I was out there with my Mom, Peepaw, and I'd make them rent Bill Dance, videos. That's how nerdy I was. I was a little kid or whatever. But we watched some of those tapes about fishing in Alaska, and I always thought Alaska would be, that's where it's at. And that's been in my head my whole, life. Well, I graduated OSU, and I'm looking at applying for these pilot boards around the country. And I'd always, only at that point, been around fighter units, with the exception of that last year I was on active duty when I deployed and then was stuck in a basement. So I was kind of starting to get a little burned out with the fighter thing. I still think it'd be cool to fly one for about 3 to 5 years. And I think I'd be pretty burnt out because I'm getting old and fat and lazy. And it's pretty nice on a C-130 you can get up, and take a whiz in a regular toilet and heat up a burrito in a microwave. I mean, there's nice creature comforts there that you don't got no fighter. plenty of stories of guys and fighters, having to take a dump in their helmet bag because where are you going? You're one dude in a bubble for hours, So, yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah,
but that's like having to pee in a race car. I've always wondered that. I'm like, what if you're 2 hours into a race?
You just pee.
Just diaper it.
What if you got a crap? You know what I mean?
Well, they usually have like a tube too. I think that hooks up. Like,
well, I mean, I'm sure that
to pee in.
Knowing those guys, they're like, well, I just don't eat for 48 hours before a race, so I'm fine,
dude.
You know what I mean?
A long time. One of the flights I got in an F-15. I'm sitting in the back, obviously, because I wasn't a pilot then. And you have what's called a piddle pack. That's what you pee in when you're flying, right? Not in a C-130 because I have a toilet. But the fighter dudes, they carry these piddle packs. They're these little like Ziploc baggy looking things that are full of like that stuff like in a diaper that crystallizes, when you pee, so it turns into like a gel and doesn't spill and everything, Well, I'm flying. It was actually a really cool flight. It was a double turn. So we went out and flew this training mission, landed, hot refueled, immediately took right back off and did this low level over Scotland. It was actually really cool. Probably the coolest thing I did in an F-15 anyway. But anyway, I was in this jet for a long time, and so I eventually had to pee. And I had a piddle pack, Well, that F-15 seat they're really big for a fighter. Like if this is probably the kind of room you have in an F-15, which is pretty big for a fighter aircraft. And the seats adjust up and down, right? And there's these deep, like, grooves on either side of you that go straight to the floor of the aircraft, and you can't reach in there. Well, I got to pee. So I unstrap, and this is while we're on the ground getting gas. And I got this piddle pack, and I'm, whatever, trying to get, ready to pee. And I drop that piddle pack right down that slot and it goes all the way to the floor.
Of course.
And I'm like, ain't no way I'm getting that thing out, I'm like, all right, well, I just have to, hold it, I guess. So I strap back in, and I'm sitting there like, yeah, I'll make it. We had another, after we took off, another 2.5 hours of flying or something. We take off, we're on our way to go to the low level area or whatever, and my eyeballs are starting to float. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to go. And so I finally fess up to the pilot, like, hey, dude, you have one of those piddle packs, Got any more than piddle packs? And the dude's like. He was like, didn't you bring one? I was like, yeah, I did, but I dropped it between the seat and I can't get it, And he's like, all right, whatever. He's digging around. F-15, he's sitting in front of me. I'm sitting behind him. So he reaches around, he finds one, he hands it back to me, and I get it.
And drop it again.
Dude, I drop it again on the other side, right to the floor. Boom. And now I'm like, I am going to pee in my pants. Is what's going to happen.
Your luck is exactly like mine.
I am getting to that. Yeah.
Were you like, how did this happen?
Yeah. No, dude. And like I said, there ain't no way to get down there.
Did you tell him?
Well, I waited a while because now I'm kind of embarrassed. Yeah. I'm like, oh, dude, what am I going to do? And so when you fly over like cold water and then in an ejection aircraft, you got to wear what's called a poopy suit. And it's like this big rubber suit that gives you a little bit of exposure protection if you had to punch out, We're flying like over the North Sea, in England. So,
okay.
It's called a poopy suit, but we don't because I'm not an ejection seat aircraft, but our helicopter crews wear them in Alaska and stuff too in case they went in the water, or the fighter guys in Alaska, they wear them. So anyway, I'm wearing this poopy suit, and I'm like, it's rubber. So I'm like, I'm going to fill this thing up, and it's going to go right to my feet. I'm thinking about this. Like, I want to be squishing around in my own pee for the rest of this flight. And finally, I'm like holding it, and I'm about to burst. And I finally fess up again. I'm like, dude, do you have another piddle pack? He's like, you filled that one up already? And I was like, no, man, I dropped that one. And he's like, are you kidding me? He's like, all right, dude, give me a second, and he's digging around in his helmet bag.
No, you guys are flying right now,
yeah,
right?
he's flying. Well, he's flying,
Right.
I'm sitting there, observing. At least I wasn't a pilot then. And so,
and who can enjoy this flight when you have to pee that bad?
Oh man, and I was at the point because we had a lot of flying left. I'm like, it's going to happen. I was at that point. It wasn't a matter of like a little bit of discomfort. It was like, oh, I am peeing. And so anyway, I tell him, and he's like, you got to be kidding me, dude. Well, let me see. And he's digging around. He's like, look, I have one left, one. And he's like, I'm giving it to you, but for the love of God, be careful with it. This is it. This is your last chance.
He's thinking, how did this guy get here?
Yeah.
He's dropped two of these things.
Yeah. And dude, yeah, it was like, like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory golden ticket. I'm like, It's holding on to it, put it in my teeth, anything that I don't drop it, just click. Dude, I filled that thing to the brim. I mean, it was all I could do not to.
So what do you do with that? Does it seal up?
Yeah, well, you let
like
it.
a Ziploc bag?
You let it gel up, and then you give it one little. That's all I had left was just enough fold so that the gel would stay in, and then you got like these little crimps that crimp it close,
okay. And then anyway. Do you drop it too? I mean,
you throw it away when you land. You go throw it in a trash can.
Well, I know, but do you put it down on the ground
until you get?
Yeah.
You shove it like in your helmet bag or something, just so it's not flopping around. You step on it and you.
Hell, you might as well throw it down that slot once it's full.
Yeah. They ain't fitting in that slot after you fill it up.
Did you fly with a guy that was trying to make you throw up once, or he thought you would and you didn't, or something like that? You told me that a long time ago.
The first time I got a ride in an F-15, no one was going to try to make you throw up. It's just that
you're probably going to.
Everyone throws up the first time they fly, and everyone knew it. And I got my first flight down at Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida, in Panama City, and so it's hot. I'm stationed in England, but I'm TDY down there, temporary duty in Florida for the school. At the end of this, it was an F-15 school. At the end of it, you get a ride in an F-15. So my ride day coming up, and they tell you, try to eat stuff that tastes as good coming up as it does going down, like peanuts, or not peanuts, but peanut butter and bananas and stuff like that. It apparently tastes good to throw up. I don't know. I haven't tested it to prove, but I get in my head like I ain't gonna throw up like the rest of these pansies, So it was a mistake, dude. I intentionally didn't eat for like 12 hours prior to the flight. So
made it worse.
Nothing in my stomach. Yeah, I wanted to throw up so bad and I couldn't, And you get up there and you're like, you're pulling these G's and stuff. And a lot of it was the heat and my nerves. I'd never been in an F-15, I'd barely ever been in an airplane until I went to basic training and got in a plane and flew down to San Antonio, So getting an F-15 was kind of a big deal for me at the time, and I was nervous. And I didn't puke, but it ruined me for about 24 hours after that flight. I was like crawling back to my room and
nauseated and feeling
dehydrated. Yeah, and it was terrible, terrible. But I mean, you get it's just different, man. Like as far as getting sick when you fly. If I flew this C-130 that I fly now, if I had to ride in the back of this thing, like our loadmasters, the guys that push the stuff out, the back and stuff, I would get sick every time.
Really?
Yeah, dude. Every time I ride back there, I get like I haven't thrown up, knock on wood, but I get nauseous. Yeah, because like when you're in the back like that, especially when you're moving around, up high it doesn't matter. It's just like an airline, it's whatever. But when you're down low doing tactical stuff and you're maneuvering a lot and it could be bumpy and everything, you don't have a frame of reference to the horizon, which as a pilot you always have. You're sitting there like, oh yeah, we're going this direction. We're going to turn left. So I'm looking left, and it's like your brain to body thing knows what's going on. And when you're in the back, you're facing every direction, and airplanes going wherever, and gyros. Every time I ride in the back, I get nauseous.
That's crazy, dude.
But,
even as much as you've flown and everything, it still gets you.
Yeah, I don't like riding in the back. So,
well, see, that's like we went deep sea fishing one time. Me and Gavin. Gavin was 7, and we went with Nathan and Zana, and they both got horribly seasick, and Gavin and I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, I got a little bit nauseous, but we didn't. Like Nathan and them had to lay down.
Yeah.
They barely got to fish. Even when we got out, we were going to fish. They were still having trouble with it. But I don't know how I'd behave in the back of a plane necessarily. But
yeah, so far I haven't really had any trouble with boats and stuff. But I don't know. It's just different strokes for different folks. We had dudes when I went to pilot training, because this, you start off in Air Force pilot training flying. It's called a T6 Texan. And it's a 2-seater kind of. It looks like an old like P-51 Mustang from World War II or something, turbo prop plane. And so getting sick in it's kind of a big deal. It's a big no-no as far as getting through training, because they're trying to train you to a point where you're the dude flying that thing by yourself, doing all the stuff they're teaching you, right? Well, if you can't do it without vomiting violently, that's bad, we don't want you crashing the plane because you can't stop throwing up, So we had several dudes that would get, I forget what they called it, there was some deal they would put you on, like the instructors watched you extra close because you were getting sick a lot. And there is a point, we didn't lose anyone. We had a few guys that had to get some extra like medical attention to be able to get through their air sickness, they call it. But yeah, you can you can fail pilot training for being sick. You know, like at some point they go, dude, this is not for you. You know, so go away. But we had a few guys that struggled with it, but they got over it and moved on. So,
Well, now, so basically that was something I was going to ask you earlier about was why you chose Alaska. So, I mean, it was. Do you have like a wish list? Like whenever you're like the planes you want to fly and all that, they go, okay, if you had to fly out of these 10, which ones do you want to fly the most? Or is there like in case you can't get a C-130 or something like that? I mean.
So Alaska, again, so the Air National Guard, every state has, Air National Guard. Every state's got different aircraft and what they fly. And you can apply specifically to that unit and that aircraft. So if you wanted to fly F-16s in Oklahoma, you apply to the Tulsa unit. You don't apply to the Oklahoma City Will Rogers unit because they're flying MC-12s. It's a different. So you know exactly what you're applying for when you go.
Gotcha.
Alaska's a little bit different. And as I was saying, there were so many airframes. We lost one now, but at the time there's the HH-60, which is the helicopter, HC-130, which is what I fly, the search and rescue C-130, Slick C-130, which is a cargo plane, C-17s, which are the big cargo planes, if you guys don't know, and then KC-135s up north, the refuelers. So you got 5 options. So then when you apply to the Alaska board, you would rank in order what you would prefer. And then they can offer you, if they offer you something that's maybe not necessarily what you want, you can always say no. That's the thing. It's like a civilian process.
Is there any sort of like penalty though if you decline? I mean, is it look frowned upon or anything like that if you say, no, I don't really want to fly a KC-135? Is that what you said it was?
Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah, but no, I mean there is and there isn't. You're burning bridges because this is a personal thing. This is you talking to individual people, not Big Blue Air Force. And when you tell them, no, your airplane sucks, I don't want to fly it, you probably burnt that bridge.
Yeah.
You ain't coming back to that unit potentially. But saying no is not that big a deal. Guys do it. They really want to fly. Well, I saw this when I did the board. A guy really wanted to be a fighter pilot. Well, we don't have no fighters in Alaska in the Guard. So he was applying to other Guard units. We ended up hiring him, but since sorry, that's mine.
Oh.
But since the Alaska Air National Guard, we don't have fighters, he was going to apply to other units around the country to try to get an F-16 or whatever. So he ended up turning us down because he got hired to be an F-16 pilot in another unit. Okay, we're not going to hold that against him.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So as far as picking Alaska, I graduated from OSU. Looking to apply to units, thinking I was going to apply at Tulsa. At the time, they were fat on pilots, and I was told they weren't going to have a board for a while. And this is back in 05, 06. The airline industry was kind of tanked, and dudes weren't getting everything in the Air Force is blowback from the economy. If the airlines are hiring, the Air Force needs pilots bad, like they do right now. If the airlines aren't hiring, everyone's staying in the Air Force because there ain't no jobs.
Yeah.
So. At the time, pickings were a little slim. So Alaska, you have a really good opportunity there because there's 5 different airplanes that could hire you, and they take multiple people depending on the aircraft. And to be honest with you, I'd never been to Alaska. I'd always wanted to go. And I thought flying search and rescue airplanes in Alaska sounded cool. I didn't know anything about it. I just thought it'd be cool to apply and see what happened. And I put an application in. They called me for an interview, flew up, and they hired me. So my HC-130 was my number 1 pick. I was kind of interested in the helicopter too, but my wife told me if I had a choice, she didn't want me flying helicopters because once again you see too many movies and those things get shot, and they do get shot up. It happens. So it is what it is. So yeah, that's what happened.
Have you flown any of the other ones?
Like the other aircraft?
Yeah, since you've been up there.
No, so it's weird in the Air Force. Once you're checked out in an aircraft, it's kind of dumb, to be honest with you. But like I flew the older C-130, the Legacy C-130, for years, and then we get this new J model. Well, once you get a check ride and a form saying you were a HC-130 J model pilot, it's like, the Air Force goes, omni, boom, you no longer have any idea how to fly the old C-130. You're not qualified to fly it anymore.
Wow.
It's like, it's kind of silly because it's like, it would probably take me a minute now if I got in the old wings. I haven't been in it in a while.
Yeah.
But if you're, dual qualified in both, which is apparently super hard to do in the Air Force, as far as like the paperwork and waivers and stuff, then you could fly both, like getting one day and one the other. But the Air Force wants you to be specialized in the thing you do,
Yeah.
Well, I can see it in the instance of trying to keep, you got to draw a line somewhere, I guess. When you talk about a massive number of people that are in it or whatever, you got to figure out hard lines for everybody. That makes kind of sense to me.
Yeah.
And it cuts down on everybody wanting to fly. Well, I mean, you got to have so many open spots or whatever, and that's the way you don't go, well, we have 1.5 pilots for this aircraft because this guy can fly this one too.
So long story longer, that's kind of what you were saying. They want you specialized. They want you good at your one thing that you do. And once again, you can draw lines where it makes sense. Like, hey, you've flown this other airplane for years. Why can't you still fly it? But then, if you start making exceptions for everything, next thing you know, it's not like World War II. You see some of those old documentaries and stuff. Those guys were checked out to fly like anything that flew. You could just jump in and go. Doesn't work like that anymore, So they want you specialized and being good.
That's something I was going to ask you too. Like your flight crew, I guess the guys that you fly with that do the different jobs on that plane. How often do you change people? I mean, do you guys kind of like spend your careers together, or do people move in and out, or? Yeah,
people move in and out. The Guard, the Air National Guard. So in my situation, I'm what's called, I don't know if I explained this, but active guard. I'm an active Guard Reserve member, which means it means a lot of things. But basically, I'm in an Air National Guard unit, but I'm on active duty. So I've got full active duty benefits, pension, all that kind of stuff. But I don't move. I'm in one unit, and that's how I'm getting taken down to retirement and all that kind of stuff. So in the Guard, you typically dudes don't move around. They usually join a unit and they stay, for a career. Alaska's tough, especially on wives and stuff like that. They come up there. Dudes like to hunt and fish and do Alaska stuff. The women typically don't. And then after a few years, it's like either, it's time to go. And so Alaska's got a lot of transient guys in the units because of that kind of issue. But for the most part, you stay. And then, like I said, it's the Guard. Which is kind of weird, too, in the rescue community with this, the HH-60 guys and our PJs and the 212. We all fly together and work together, daily. So you get to know. It's not like you just know C-130 guys. Your little rescue community is kind of somewhat tight knit there. And what was the point of my story? Oh, crews. So part of our crew isn't just C-130 guys. It's also pararescuemen because that's part of your search and rescue ensemble. We rotate with each other. Like, you don't fly with the same people every day unless you're deployed, and then we'll go hard crew where you fly with the exact same crew every day for your deployment.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of curious about because I didn't know how, without getting into too great a detail, I guess, or whatever, I just didn't know if you go, well, when I'm doing this sort of thing, I want these guys with me, or if I'm doing this, because I'm sure as the pilot, surely you have, like, I would assume the most say-so about who's going to get on your plane and who's not.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, are you asking like personality conflict or just for mission stuff? Or,
I was just kind of curious how you go about deciding. Do you decide who's going on your flight, or does somebody else decide and you just fly the plane? Or
yeah, pretty much it's generated the system, and I get a flight authorization, and whoever's on it's on it. We don't pick and choose. It may work out certain ways, that so-and-so likes to fly with so-and-so, so they try to put them on the schedule, but that's a crapshoot because people have lives and kids and, is what it is. But now when we deploy with typically hard crew, meaning you don't swap around. You're with the same people every time you fly. And that's because you're not sending an entire squadron when you deploy. It's just a couple of crews.
And nobody has anything else to do but fly.
Yeah. Well, and you got to keep everyone on the same rest cycle so that whenever you're off alert, that you have a full crew to come back on alert. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you can't swap them around. You get people all screwed up. So
That makes sense too. Yeah.
but
Well, that now, like deployments now in the level you're at, being a major and that kind of thing like that. Now, if you deploy, would you deploy as a pilot? Or are you going to be scheduling, or what would your role be if you were to deploy?
yeah, I'd be a pilot. Really, the leadership stuff, as far as being like a director of operation or commander type person, kicks in around lieutenant colonel, which is the rank after me. As a major, as a senior major, a guy who's getting close to lieutenant colonel, they may deploy a guy and use him in that capacity. But I just pinned on like 2 weeks ago, so that ain't me. And I'm gonna retire as a major, so that's all she's got for me. Yeah, no, just a regular line guy flying would be my thing.
Now, didn't you say you were looking at another deployment
Yeah,
here pretty soon or something like that?
yeah, I got one coming up, and yeah, probably my last one, hopefully. Go over.
Is it, and without getting too specific, I mean, is it like a predetermined length of time? I mean, how far ahead? And I don't mean to understand your comings and goings. It's more I'm just curious, like, are you in the know? Like, I mean, do they tell you, hey man, this month be ready because you're going to blah blah blah?
Yeah, and typically we ask for volunteers, so no one's blindsided. And I volunteered, so like I said, it's probably it for me. And it's what you try to do, ask for volunteers first, and usually you get enough people to fill a deployment with volunteer crews. And that way no one's, I've been non-voluntarily deployed once in 2000. It was right before I went to pilot training, 2007, right before Maddie was born. And it kind of sucks, when you get non-voluntarily.
You turned it down first, and then they're like,
yeah,
nope.
yeah. Well,
going.
my wife was pregnant, and she
Yeah.
had my oldest daughter just a couple weeks after I got home from that deployment, and it's like, yeah, dude, this isn't ideal, but
Right.
they ran out of people for I was an intel analyst still, at Tulsa, and so yeah, I got non-vol mobilized, whatever they call it. So it was a short deployment. I can't remember how long it was. It was a few months.
It
but
was short enough. Or right, I mean,
Yeah.
just barely.
yeah, it was close. It was close. But yeah, it worked out. So.
So how does that work when you get deployed? Are you the one that's going to fly over, or do you fly with? Do you get on a regular whatever, and then you're the guy that is flying over there on your deployment, or are you the one that's going to fly over there? That's an elementary question, I know, but
Well, no,
maybe
it's
stupid.
it's actually not, because yes would be the answer. So crews will fly. If we're going to deploy, we're going to send crews with C-130s to fly them to location X, whatever. Now, if you're doing, because we try to do swap outs on deployment so that you don't burn dudes out. During the swap out, depending on maintenance and other things, other guys may fly new C-130s in that are fresh maintenance and ready to go. Or depending on the maintenance schedule, if the ones you have are good, then we'll send what's called a rotator, and then the crews will come in, not commercially, but it's like a chartered, it is a chartered commercial airplane the government charters, and then you ride in on it, and then the other guys would fly out on it. And
Okay.
So yeah.
That would be weird, dude. That would suck to fly to say, even if you like flying, though. I mean, you're like, okay, well, we're going to get in our plane and we're going to fly for 20 something hours to wherever.
Yeah, dude. I'll be honest with you, and this is why I have zero interest in being a commercial pilot. That's, to me, the worst part about flying is when you take off, you set the autopilot, and you stare at each other for like 8 hours. And this is back to those fart jokes. That's where it's like, I'm going to entertain myself somehow up here. It's, I don't know. That part's weird. And flying rescue, for our training, where you have so many events that are condensed, So we'll fly this tactical low level, we'll fly at 300 to 500 feet, depending on the time of day. We'll do airdrops, pararescue, drop the PJs, refuel the helicopter, take gas. The new airplane, we can get fuel now from like a KC-135. So we'll do all this stuff, just boom, 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 and you're flying the whole time. And like you get so used to that being a normal pace, and then when you take off and turn on the autopilot, you're like, well, you're like that Ricky Bobby, what do I do with my hands, thing, yeah. But and it gets, I have a hard time just sitting, for like 8 hours. So I have to get up every like hour and just I don't know, do something. And
how many different planes do you guys have where you're at right now?
4. Yeah, 4.
Do you have like your favorite?
No, I haven't flown since I've been doing this coordination job, and I don't fly much. In the old ones, I had my favorite, you know, but the new ones, I haven't flown them enough. I'm only flying them one to 3 times a month ish. So they're all the same to me, and they're still pretty new. So the new airplane is more electrical and computer stuff, and it's got weird issues. It's not for being brand new. That we're having problems here and there sometimes, but it's They're all weird in their own little way, where they have different little quirky things that go wrong.
Right.
And from the old one to the new one, that was kind of funny. So I went to Albuquerque for a year and got trained on this new airplane. Well, the old one we were flying, they had the old steam gauges and stuff. I want to see how much fuel I had, click, click, click. And then, you had a gauge or whatever you'd read and stuff. Well, the new one's all digital, you can look at the readout and read it direct and all that kind of stuff. Well, the fuel's a bad example. Actually, it worked the other way. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. Oil pressure or whatever. But we get this new airplane, and all of a sudden, dudes act like it's a spaceship. Still C-130, It's like if you were driving your Grandpa Duke's old Ford F-150, and you got a brand new F-150 today, you still could drive it.
Right.
It's just, displays are different or some different stuff going on. But.
Well, that, now what you told me earlier, how many years from retiring now?
I'll hit 18 years of total service in August. I need 2 more years to 20, obviously, but I need 4 to get an active duty retirement under my career, thing as an AGR. So 4 years, basically.
Well, at that time, like when you retire, is it like a clean break? Like they just go, okay, this is the date that you're no longer in the military anymore, or is there any sort of transition that you have to do or anything like that?
Yeah, they have some transition. There's like some mandatory classes you got to take and some different things, but I mean, a lot of that's self-dependent. Some people get kicked out, retired because they go kicking and screaming and refuse to leave, kind of thing. And some dudes are like 20 years in one day, and I'm out.
Yeah.
Trying to let the door hit me as I go. So it just depends on where you're at in your life, and some dudes, don't get along and with leadership. So at 20 years in one day, they were forced to retire. It just depends. So in Alaska, we get some of these bariatric patients. I don't know if are you familiar with bariatric, the term? It means very large people, like north of 500 pounds large. So sometimes these folks need to be moved for medical reasons, and they're too large to fit into a normal, like air ambulance. So they will call us to come pick them up with a C-130, right? Yeah, I know. It's like
it's a strange allocation of resources to me, dude. Who thought that up? I mean, I know there's logistics involved, but you go
life, limb, or eyesight, we can accept that mission as the air guard. So if it's like a life, altering thing or potentially death, then we're allowed to go.
I mean, do you suit up the PJs to go on the bariatric patients?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we always have 2 of them with us. Then you have to, get a little more help back there. And
so they fly no matter what? I mean, those guys
on missions, yeah. Huh. Yeah. And sometimes for training, sometimes not. It just depends, because they got other things to do and currencies and stuff and all that. But yeah, we get this call and it's funny. So these, large folk that need transported. And again, I'm not too judgy or anything, but if there's ever a point in your life, you should probably, reevaluate decisions you've made. When you need a military or cargo aircraft to come move you, that might be.
That's like the Operation Dumbo drop or something like that. It just keeps going through my head,
Big miracle, over there. Oh yeah. So anyway, man, my wife has got this. I do not discriminate at all. So my wife, and I'll explain that in a second. My wife had this like fondue party, and I'm on weekend alert, so I'm not drinking or anything. But it's all of her and her friends. They're drinking wine, eating a bunch of cheese and stuff. Fondue, whatever you dip in fondue. And so I'm eating this stuff all night, and I'm not drinking because everybody else is drinking and having a good time. I'm drinking coffee, like on your I don't drink coffee podcast, but here I am, blasphemy. But so I'm eating all this cheese, I'm just pounding this coffee, and I'm like, oh, whatever. Well, about midnight, I get a call to go Free Willy, and I go in to go fly. It's midnight, and when they move folks like this, it takes a long time, figuring out the logistics and stuff. And so I get up there, and we fly, we land, and dude, my guts are just sticking out like this, like just bloated up, full of cheese and coffee, I'm just miserable. And we're sitting down there, engines running, at the civilian field, and my co-pilot had a female co-pilot and major, so she outranked me. This is one of those situations I told you about where I was the lowest ranking dude but in charge or whatever. So I'm sitting there, and it took a while, and I finally get our patient loaded up and we're ready to go. And so I tell my co-pilot, like you always do, to get our clearance so we can leave. And so, dude, and right about that time, I finally just, just one of those face melters, it was bad. And I knew it was going to be bad, And she clicks that mic, and she goes, clearance delivery, this is Air Force. Oh, my God, what is that? And let's go to the mic. And I'm laughing so hard, I can't talk. And she's like frantically looking for an oxygen mask, trying to put it on. And I'm laughing so hard I can't talk on the radio. And so clearance delivery is, are you needing assistance? Air Force Rescue? Yeah.
Oh,
because
wow.
the last thing they heard was, oh my God.
What is that?
And so through my laughs, I was like, stand by, giving them all that. Anyway, I ended up having to single pilot that thing home while she wore an oxygen mask and didn't talk to me for a week. Totally worth it.
Was she really mad at you?
Oh, yeah, she was mad. I thought it was funny. Still do.
So is she still around?
Yeah.
She don't talk to you still?
No, she got over it, but she told everyone, of course, and I'm like, good. Get that message out. They know what's up whenever they're flying with me, You beat around the bush about this. Now, that's how mature I am. Yeah, so that's whenever you think about how smart
Major
you got to be.
Duane Griffith.
Yeah. Don't you got to be smart to fly airplanes? That's how smart you got to be to fly an airplane.
Major Duane Griffith.
Yeah. I have grown up in no way. Since we were kids eating Bigfoot pizzas.
You guys got recognized here a couple of years ago, didn't you? Didn't you guys get some awards or something like that for some of the stuff you've been doing?
Yeah, we get it's pretty regular. Because we're really busy as far as rescues concerned. Not even hands down the busiest search and rescue unit in the Air Force. I mean, we execute a lot of missions in Alaska. All of it civilian search and rescue. So yeah, we get a lot of awards, Red Cross awards, Jolly Green, I guess, is the big rescue of the year thing, and different associations and all that. Yeah, we get awards fairly regularly.
So is that just nature of the landscape and the fact that people are kind of spread out and all that kind of thing like that?
Remote areas.
Remote, and people do crazy stuff, kind of like you and Trent and all your skating, but we call it skiing and snowboarding and stuff. Well, dudes will go do that in Alaska, for heli-skiing, get dropped off in the middle of nowhere, do all that kind of stuff. And people do. It's Alaska. People do a lot of stuff outside. There's disproportionate number of airplanes and pilots compared to the rest of the country. So people fly into remote spots a lot, land in remote spots. Hikers and climbers and just nature, whatever. Granola type eating folks and whatever, they get out there and do stuff, hunters, whatever, bear maulings, we respond to all that. So everything's broke down by a jurisdiction, and we're responsible for airplane crashes. If an airplane crashes, we got to respond. Other things like we work real close with the state troopers and stuff. So if there's a land event, a hunter gets mauled by a bear, but he's somewhere that the troopers can't get to, can you help us? Well, yeah, we're going to help him. We're going to try to get something over there. But
you just fly over there and then you jump PJs out to this dude that's out in the middle of nowhere?
Are you ever landing out there?
Depends. Not in a C-130 in a remote area. But we've done this a lot. So again, my C-130 refuels the HH-60. Mm-hmm. We have pararescue on both. If there's a situation where a plane crashes and there's people bleeding out on the ground and we need help right now, well, we're going to try to get that C-130 overhead and kick pararescuemen out ASAP and get them, some help while they backtrack to the HH-60 and then refuel them to get them to where they need to be to pick them up, right? That's very rare. Typically, we'll try to get the HH-60 out there because the problem is if we put our pararescuemen out on the ground, they got to have a way to get out.
Yeah, right.
So we like to know that the 60 is going to be able to get there at some point before we kick them out. And it's typical, you would take off, the helicopter typically would take off 30 minutes an hour ahead of the C-130, which is kind of the nature of the game. There ain't taxiing. They just take off and, do helicopter stuff. We got to taxi around, do all this other crap. So they typically take off ahead of us. We'll track them down, give them fuel, go to the objective area, wherever we're looking for, airplane, hiker, whatever, and then work them in to, help them best way we can, pass fuel, all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of it. That's typical. That's normally how it would go. We can drop bundles, rescue radios, stuff like that. A dude crashes an airplane. He's walking around it. Looks like he's unhurt. We'll drop down pretty low, kick out a bundle with a radio in it and talk to him like, hey, are you injured? What's going on? Okay, well, we got a helicopter right behind us, or whatever.
Have you done that before?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Loadmaster directed, basically. You just fly low and the paratroop door open. The Loadmaster looks out, until it looks right, and he kicks it out and tries to hit the guy with it, and he walks out and picks it up and talks to him on the radio. And then equipment and stuff like that we can drop, food, water, whatever. So yeah, it just depends.
Do you do these refuels during the nighttime too?
Yeah, and we wear NVGs, night vision goggles, and yeah.
Is it pretty sketchy?
No, not really. Well, I say it's not because I have a different perspective now that I'm on the receiving end of fuel too instead of just giving.
Oh yeah, with the 135.
Yeah, so whenever we're refueling with a helicopter, I don't know if I've ever shown you a picture, but it's basically like a big garden hose comes out of the back of a pod on the wings, and it's got a big drogue that opens up, it's a couple of feet in diameter, and that's it. We try to hold a stable platform. We fly really slow and do, and the helicopter, it's up to them to come in there and plug into that basket and get the fuel. Pretty oblivious to what's going on behind me. It's a big airplane behind me helicopter doing what it does, but whatever. I'm sure it's Scotia on their end until they get really comfortable doing it. Because now I know from the receiving end, to me, it sucks being that close to a big airplane. It freaks me out. I've only done it a handful of times, but it's pretty sobering when you get up there and you're like, that is a big airplane I'm getting real close to, But, yeah, you practice it. And when we do all that on night vision goggles minus the receiving. We never do that. Mm-hmm. That's always unaided. But
yeah, because that would be
disorientating to be that close to a big airplane.
Yes.
And you have light cues you got to be able to see to know what you're doing and stuff, So
that's crazy.
That's weird to me, dude, that you wear night vision goggles to fly a plane. I guess it shouldn't be, but I just would assume that they would have something adapted to the plane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of you having to wear.
Dude, I've been saying that for years. I thought we'd be by now this new airplane like Knight Rider style, like David Hasselhoff or something.
A different screen come up in front of you or something like that.
It's like you're just looking at no, we're not there. Yeah. Yeah. But no, we wear those NVGs. And again, it's kind of like we're talking about basic training and marching and how it seemed really cool at first and then it sucked. That's kind of how NVGs are. At first, you're like, I can't believe we're doing this, like that Step Brothers deal, like, can you believe we got NVGs?
Holy Santa Claus shit.
Even better, we got them when we're 40. You know, that's,
Yeah, dude, I love night vision. You know what I mean? I would be definitely into that at first, I guess.
At first, but you know, you have to wear a helmet that it mounts to, and then a big heavy battery pack in the back, which you kind of need not only for the battery but to balance it. Otherwise, you'd be like this the whole time, you know, because just to kind of balance it out on your head. And I'm not gonna lie, dude. After wearing that thing for a couple hours, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore because you're sweating and it's heavy and your neck starts hurting, you know.
I would probably at first want to wear them all the time. I'd be like, I know it's daytime, but can I just wear my NVGs on my helmet? You know?
Yeah, at first it seems that way, but I don't know, man. That was short-lived for me. I was like, all right, I'm over the NVG thing, you know.
When you see these videos of these Navy SEALs, and now instead of just the two, you know, they've got so that you got a better field of view, and they look awesome. You know, they look like
panorama. Yeah, and we're actually, I think, authorized to use those. A few helicopter dudes have worn them, and I'm sure our PJs have all kinds of crazy stuff. But I've yet to wear them. I've heard they're awesome if you get them sighted in right, but it takes forever to sight them in because you got to look at, you know, whatever those 6 different angles and get them all sighted perfect. And then if you bump them off at any time, then it's like start over. Yeah. Oh, shit. So, but yeah, who knows? Those SEAL guys probably have, you know, dude, I fly a C-130, man. It's the beat up pickup truck in the sky. We don't get the best and, you know, greatest inventions, you know.
Surely you don't have the fucking dangling down lens covers though, like on Step Brothers, you know what I mean, where he's like looking around.
Oh yeah,
they're hanging by the strings, you know. Yeah. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Have you had any near misses up there?
Probably
not that he wants to talk about.
Right.
Well, no. I had one really close call with the Cessna. We cleared land back at our base. Had a pretty close call. I don't know how close we were, but it was close. It scared the bejesus out of me.
So what happens then? You call in and say, "Hey, there's a Cessna that was not where it was supposed to be."
No, because technically it's a weird deal. It's hard to explain, but the airspace around the base, there's a big chunk cut out of it so that civilian aircraft, because there's little fields over there for little airplanes go land. So there's a chunk cut out where it's totally legal to go through there without talking to anyone, without squawking, without doing anything. And that's what this dude did. And he came right through our approach corridor to land back at our base. So he technically did nothing wrong. It was just real stupid, and we got real close to him because, you know, it's hard to see a little plane, and you're coming out of a descent in a circle, and then it's like, oh, crap, you know. And so overg'd the plane, and it got put down for maintenance for a while, and I had to do a bunch of inspections and stuff.
For that reason?
Oh, I pulled as hard as I could, you know, to avoid it. And we can only pull, it's around 2.5 Gs before you overg it, and 3.5 vertically. And I think I pulled 4 point something on it.
So they got to like stress test it and all that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, you know, and then I got the whole, like, tell us a story. Why'd you do this? And then I was like, you know, I pulled 4.2 because I couldn't pull 5. You know, that's all I had in it at the time. You know? And so,
so you saw this plane?
Oh yeah, I was like, well, we're coming off of like a hold and descending. It's kind of hard to explain. Like, this is the runway, and we got cleared to land. So we're coming out of that to land as you're descending because we got to get down to profile to land, and then as we're coming down, whoop, there's an airplane. We pulled as hard as we could.
Dude.
I'm guessing I don't know. We probably weren't as close as it looked like, but it looked like, you know, you could see the dude's mustache or something, you know. It was tight, yeah.
Did anybody say, oh, shit?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody did? Oh, shit.
And one of my buddies was flying. He was standing up on the flight deck. He was a radio operator at the time, and he, like, crumpled to the floor.
Shit, I bet, yeah.
You know, I mean, so it sucked. But, you know, whatever, no one got hurt. That's probably the closest I've been to anything, you know.
That sounds pretty close.
He's on the mind going, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Did he ever, I mean, when something like that happens, do they contact him? And
Well, we filed reports and stuff.
Oh, okay.
We had no idea who it was because he wasn't on a flight plan. He wasn't talking to anyone. But the problem was, like I said, what he did was not illegal based on the airspace around it just wasn't smart. So there wasn't really anything to do, you know.
So did you ever read his I just want to know his side of the story. Like, oh my God,
Oh, you're talking about the little plane Cessna?
Yes.
No, we have no idea who he was.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, that's the thing.
It would have been cool to get his perspective of it.
Shit, you know he's told that story 100 times.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
more than that.
I was
I'm
a
sure.
little drunk. Yeah. I thought I was going to go ahead and fly back to my cabin. And next thing I know, there's a big fucking plane right in front of me.
He probably hasn't told anyone the story because he don't want to. He probably thinks what he was doing was in the wrong. And he's gonna lose his license.
You know how people are. That dude's somewhere in a bar telling that story, probably right now. You know what I mean? And he probably thinks you were in the wrong. He's like, I'm minding my own business. This big ass plane's like
C-130, man.
How dare he try to go back to his base?
Sure, he thinks he owns the sky just because it's a military base.
Oh, another good mission. I could tell you. This is a pretty quick story.
I want to know all the good ones.
We picked up. This is in Afghanistan. We picked up as an Army gal who had a baby in a porta potty. U.S. Army troops. So like she didn't know she was pregnant apparently and had this baby. And so we got sent to pick her up to get her. So what we did in Afghanistan, this medevac deal, we go to smaller bases where dudes were hurt or whatever, and then take them to a bigger base so we can get on a C-17 and go to Germany and get better care and all that kind of stuff. Well, this lady had this baby in this porta potty, and so we got sent to get her, and it was weird, I mean, what do you say? It was like you see those shows on TV, like I didn't know I was pregnant or whatever. And in my head, we're flying her wherever we had to fly her to, and in my head, I'm like, she has to be huge, I'm thinking like, because it was like a full-term baby, like a 7-pound baby or something, and the whole way I'm like, I got to see what this girl looks like, So we land and shut down the motors, and I'm unstrapping and I'm running to the back as fast as I can. And she was like normal sized, she wasn't like a little bitty thing, but she was like a normal sized lady. And I'm like, how do you not know you're like 9 months pregnant?
She's probably been eating a lot of pizza or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Come
putting on
on.
a few pounds. I don't know.
I mean, the baby wasn't in a coma. It's moving around. She had to have known.
Yeah, it was weird. I was, well, like I said, I was expecting her to be like massive or something. She was kind of a normal sized person. I was like, huh, all right.
She was probably really pregnant. She's like, I'm ready to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
How do I do this?
Yeah.
I'll have it in the porta potty.
Yeah.
Nobody will be the wiser.
Yeah.
Or she stole somebody's baby.
Yeah.
So she could get out of there. She, so you like said hi to her. Hi, I'm going to be your pilot.
No.
Get you out of here.
No, on those deals.
How did this happen? That's what I would,
Well, on the pilot side, like I don't interact with patients or survivors very much. I'm flying the plane.
Right.
Dudes in the PJs and the loadmasters actually are hands on with people. I'm not dealing with them much. Yeah. We anyway, sorry. I was thinking about something else that happened on the same trip, but
you can't tell that story.
No, it was funny, but it was nothing. So it was a weird deployment because all three of our rescue squadrons all went at the same time to Afghanistan. Well, they gave us these stupid combat shirts to fly with that were terrible. They soaked up sweat and didn't wick away very good and stuff, and they were tight, and I hate tight stuff. I don't like anything restricting me. So one of our our crows, which is like a PJ officer, combat rescue officer, it's called. We're about the same size, ish. I'm a little bit, ironically, I'm in the CrossFit gym for the first time in my life, and it's to do a podcast, not to do CrossFit. But yeah. So anyway, he's more PJ-ish, and I'm more C-130 pilot-ish. But he had the cooler shirts. It was like this better material, wicked away better. Yeah, PJ stuff that we didn't have. And I was griping about our shirts, and he's like, "Hey, dude, I'll let you borrow one of mine, whatever." So I was like, "Oh, nice," and it was good. It made the deployment much better. I had to wash it every day or two just because it get nasty. But we land and shut down in one of those bigger bases, and we'd fly with these British CCAST teams, they called it. And don't ask me what that stands for because I can't remember. Some about a combat something surgical team or something. I don't know. But it was a British medical team. And had like doctors and nurses and all kinds of stuff. Military, they're British military. And they would fly with us sometimes to go pick up patients because that's what they did. We were kind of a flying ambulance that we were doing over there. And I remember we shut down wherever we shut down. And I come off the flight deck and I got this different shirt on, than everyone else. And it's kind of like everything, you know, like in the military circles, PJs and like I said, kind of like SEALs and stuff like that. They're kind of known or whatever for, you know, they're special. They do special things. And so I come off the flight deck wearing this different shirt, and these British girls are all huddled up talking to each other. I can hear them, you know. I'm like, huh, all right. Come walking back there, and this one gal looks at me and she goes, "Oh, you a PJ?" And I was like, "No, I'm your pilot. I just flew you in here." And she was like, "Oh." I have zero interest in talking to you right now, you know. And I'm like, oh, will we go here, you know?
Yeah, really, you're the dude that flew the plane. Come on. What? I mean, does it get any cooler than that?
Apparently it does.
I
if
guess
you're
so.
a pararescueman, and yeah. I was like, yeah, you know, I'm married and happily married and all that stuff, but you know, like it'd be
Right.
nice to
Every
say,
once in a
like,
while.
yeah, it'd
Yeah.
be nice just for you
Yeah.
to say, hey, that's really cool. Now, you know, no fat boy, get back up there and fly this bus, you know, drive the bus. I remember one time we stopped and we were about to taxi with a patient or two, I forget, and we got a call on the radio to stand by, and the ambulance came back and came running out carrying bags, and I was like, huh. It was like the dude we picked up's body parts, you know, that we're, you know, just weird.
Got to take off without him.
Yeah, like, you know, a foot or whatever. I don't know, you know, and it's like, oh, okay. But again, when you're flying the plane, I ain't, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not dealing with the patients or talking to them or whatever. But yeah, you know, it was weird. That was the first, well, obviously, it's the first time I got actually shot at intentionally, which I wasn't ready for. I mean, I was kind of like, what is going on there? You know, like, because you fly, you know, we're flying a lot. And you see ground fire and different things, and you're like, oh, okay. And then our load masters, of course, they're looking behind us. I'm looking in front of us. So they see things that we don't see, and so they call things out. You make calls and you react to a threat like you're actually getting shot at. That's how you, whether it's real or not, you react, you know, so you don't get hit. So we had a few calls where the load masters would see things that I didn't see, where it was like, oh yeah, I think we were getting shot at or whatever, and I was like, oh okay, whatever. You didn't think about it. Well, the first time I saw us actually getting shot at, and I knew we were getting shot at, like, I couldn't even talk. You know, I was just like, what are they doing over there? You know, and it was we had taken off from this little field. And we had a spotlight on us. Like as soon as we like started our takeoff roll, the spotlight came on like outside of this little town a little bit. And so we take off, and the spotlight's just tracking us, and I'm looking at it, and you know, the other pilot was flying. I'm sitting there looking at it, like, what is that thing doing? Well, the light comes down, and then just tracer fire, and it was at night, so I could see under my AVGs. I was like, oh, wait a second, you know, like they're
Damn.
and it's, you know, it's actually directed at us. I'm like, what are they doing? They were so far away, I don't think they could have hit us at all. But I was just like, that dude's actually trying to hit us right now, you know? Like,
Well, I mean, if the spotlight was hitting you, I think a gunfire could too, I'm sure.
yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. We didn't get hit or anything, you know, whatever. It was just kind of weird moment where it was like, that guy actually wants to do me harm, you know?
That's what I was talking to.
Yeah, they did. They did.
And I'm in a C-130. It's not like I can go retaliate. It's just like,
Right.
oh, well, look over there.
And they knew
you
that,
know?
too.
Yeah.
I was talking to a guy that was in, I think he was in Iraq. Or I can't remember where he said he was. Anyway, but he was talking about they had those the gunships around that, but he said they would go fly like super high.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and they could track people, and so
That were doing that stuff.
like they would like kind of try to lob things over the barriers and that kind of thing like that around the base. What's the base in Kuwait? That was the big one that everybody came through or whatever. I can't remember which one that is now.
I've been there, and I can't believe I can't think of it right now.
Well, that's where this guy was at. He was like moving shipping containers.
Ollie Slade? Not Ollie Slade. Sorry, go ahead.
He said it, but I can't remember what it is. But he was like an equipment operator. He was there as a civilian, you know.
Yeah.
But he was moving like those shipping containers, you know, those big 4-wheel things, drive around and pick them up, drive them. Basically, just like moving them around or whatever. But he was talking about they'd say if somebody shot or if they were suspicious activity or anything like that, those gunships were up, I guess, flying around. He's like, they were so high you couldn't even hear them.
Yeah.
You know, and they were just watching for somebody to screw up, you know. And,
Yeah.
But I mean, he didn't say that he ever saw him shoot at anybody or anything like that. Most of the time, they would like radio in and say, "Hey, he's blah blah blah," and he said people would get in their shit and haul ass over there to wherever they thought. Like he said a guy was trying to shoot mortars over a wall, and they wouldn't call some people in, and you know, of course they went to try to find him, and they couldn't find him, so the Marines went and kicked a bunch of doors in and shit, and you know, kick some asses, you know, that kind of thing. It was funny. His stories about over there were, as a civilian guy, you know, were pretty funny because he's like you were talking about being helpless. Well, or I say helpless. You know, you're not going to retaliate because you're in a C-130. He's talking about being in a convoy once where they were supposed to go somewhere and operate equipment and come back, and he said that if you were with Marines, that you didn't get shot at while you were driving. But if you were with, and I don't mean to rip on any branch of the military. Yeah. This is just what this dude told me. But he's like, if we were rolling with Army guys, a lot of times we would get shot at, and they knew the difference. Like the people in the country knew the difference. So
uniform pattern or whatever.
Yeah. So you'd be driving along, you know, and once they were moving a crane, he said, and it's really slow, running like 40 mile an hour top speed, you know, so it's like, and he said all of a sudden, he hears I guess the crane operator has a radio. Everybody's talking to each other, and they're like, "Oh, there's gunfire coming from this side." So they stop, and everybody starts shooting in that direction. Like, no particular target. Everybody just shoots over that way for like 10 minutes. He's like, they just sit there and just empty guns that way, and then nothing. So we roll up and we take off driving again. I was like, oh my God, dude, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
And he said once they were driving through a town of some kind, and with the Marines this time, he said they were driving along there and they're escorting them or whatever, and they hear like a blink on the side of the vehicle. And he said the vehicle stopped. All the Marines, he said there was like 40 or something like that, got out and started kicking doors down. Yeah. That's why they didn't shoot at the Marines, because the Marines would go in there and start yanking people's asses out. He said they stacked everybody outside, men, women, and children. Outside, zip-tied everybody and started talking who's shooting, where are the weapons, blah, blah, blah. You know, kicking ass and all that. And he said you had to volunteer to ever go outside of the base or whatever. He's like, you had to volunteer. So if the Marines weren't going on the convoy, I wasn't going. He said, I didn't go when I thought they might get shot at or whatever. But it was like you said, you know, it's kind of like, he said, I didn't have a gun or anything. He's like, I'm just sitting there waiting, you know, and these guys are all doing all this shit outside. And,
so that life is very foreign to me. Like I said, I've never done anything like that, you know, no door kicking for me.
Well, they had some guys get drunk on their base, and they like banned drinking for the civilian people, you know? No, more, you know, you're not allowed to have any beer or anything like that. So they found some Italians that were coming through and got alcohol, and they went and buried it on base. And would like go dig it up and sell it to people and all this other shit. I was like, what? Jesus, dude. This like end up in, I don't even know, throw you in jail or some shit for doing that on base.
Cut a hand off or something.
But anyway, it was just it's a strange thing. I didn't realize how, I guess the war was being fought or whatever. I mean, you get these ideas off of movies, and it's, I guess, a far cry from the truth as far as what actually goes on. I see these videos on YouTube of these guys, and there'd be like 10 guys in a town, and they're like laying on this, you know, somebody's video, or they got, you know, helmet cam or something, and these guys are all talking to each other and like, dude, I'm telling you, he's in that building to the right, the one on the right hand side. No, on the right. They're like arguing. You know, I'm like, who the fuck's in charge here? You know, and they're sitting there talking to each other. He's like, okay, shoot it over here, and this guy stands up and shoots a steel, boom, blows it up, and they just high five and shit. Like, and then they just all take off again, like they're just running around looking for people to shoot at or some shit. It was weird. Those are old videos though, from like, you know, back when all that shit first started. But it's weird. It's a strange thing to me to think about. Like you were talking about having a guy, you know, having these people shoot at you or whatever. You would think if they had you fly in somewhere, especially in the type of aircraft you fly in, that they would have some, at least sort of secured it or something like that.
Well, I mean, the field's secure. It was right outside the gate, you know, of the base we landed at in that situation. But yeah,
Did you have to write up a report on that?
Yeah, you report to when I used to be in Intel, that's what you do. You take those reports and send them up so everyone knew, this happened at this place and this location. So the next crew knows, watch out for that. So,
Watch out for the spotlight.
Yeah.
In the dark, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was a good deployment. It was, for what it was, hate to say fun, but it was fun for a deployment. You're out there doing your job,
Right.
It's probably like anything that anyone else does for a living, but like I said, flying is a very small part of what I do now more than ever. And you get all these additional duties and all this other stuff you got to do, and then you deploy. It's like, no, you just got this job to do. You go fly this airplane and go save people or whatever. So it was rewarding. It was good.
And you're about to start flying more, you said?
Well, not anytime real soon. Probably on my next deployment, I'll be back flying quite a bit, and then after that, maybe.
Are you itching to get back in there?
Yeah, it's. Yeah, it's better than sitting in an office,
Yeah.
whatever. But
I would say so.
Yeah. Hey,
See,
weird thing about the military, though. You know what changes on my paycheck? Not a thing. Whether I fly one day a month or every day, it's all the same.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking about you retiring, and I get David Letterman in my head. I just imagine you growing this giant beard whenever you get out. I'm like, well, I couldn't grow a beard for like 25 years, so here is this giant beard that I can grow now.
Yeah, man, I'm nearly 40 and I've never smoked marijuana. I think that's going to be on the list. When I get done. That's there's a lot of stuff that. I don't know. I'm thinking about getting some cows or something, just messing around. I don't know what I want to do.
I hope you're not too let down by the marijuana. You'd probably be like, well, I could have done without that. I guess, whatever.
Well, at least I'll know then. But, yeah, no, it's like I said, the airline thing doesn't really appeal to me. So I'm, it's an option, but, whatever. Are
you guys pretty locked in on moving back to Oklahoma whenever you retire?
Yeah, pretty locked in. I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of the world, and this is my favorite place in the world. So,
right, exactly.
I would like to get back here, and of course, Christina and her family's close too, and my family, and so just get back here and watch the kids get big, and
Well, the upside is you don't have to deal with snow because we almost never get snow anymore.
For real.
So.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. When you live up north, that first snowfall, I remember everyone was excited, like, oh, it's so beautiful, It's like we're living in a winter wonderland. Month 8, 9 of that rolls around, man. I don't know.
I gotta go clear that fucking driveway.
Yeah,
man.
dude. Yeah, the majesty wears off very quickly.
Slip and fall walking into your house for the 100th time.
And we got 2 stupid dogs, so there's like just frozen dog turds everywhere, and it's just. And then in the spring, when it all melts, then you got a soupy big mess of dog turds everywhere. It's just it is what it is. But. Yeah, the snow thing gets old. The daylight thing gets old. The dark, The daylight, you get pretty used to having a lot of daylight. Not used to, but because you end up getting to a point where you have to make yourself go to bed. Because you'll be out there mowing your lawn. You're like, oh, it's 2:00 in the morning. I have to be at work at 6, and stuff like that,
I would be guilty of that because I'm bad about it. If it's daylight outside, then why are we not moving? Why are we not doing something?
Exactly. That's the way I was too. But after a while, you kind of learn, like, all right.
I'm getting sleepy for some reason.
Yeah.
Your body's like, hey, dickhead, you haven't been to sleep in like 17 hours.
Yeah.
It's time.
Well, and then you flip the other side, in the wintertime, you never see the daylight, and you're like, just
mowing your yard in the dark.
Yeah, well, I ain't no. You'd be mowing some snow,
Yeah, that would be weird for it to be like. Well, it never gets fully light during that time of the year, right? I mean, doesn't it get like dusky or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, it gets light, but it's not. Well, it's kind of like this time of year. It never quite gets dark. It'll get darker and then kind of dusky, and then it's bright again, and all the way to the noon and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of the same in the winter in reverse, where it gets kind of bright, but your hours of daylight are like, I don't know, 10 o'clock till about 3 o'clock, and you're dark again. So
that would be weird. That would be a strange thing to me. Like you were saying, it being daylight a lot wouldn't be near as big a deal as it being like dark all the time. Like, damn, dude, is it,
Yeah. No, the dark. The dark is wheel crushing. And my wife and kids don't like doing winter stuff. They don't like skiing or any of that. We've tried, and I don't mind it. For a little bit. I'm not huge. I'm not Shaun White out there doing stuff or whatever. But it's fun to go for a run or two. But they don't, so we don't do a whole lot in the winter. Other than kids have stuff, gymnastics and all that kind of stuff. But
try not to freeze to death is probably especially your wife. I mean, she's an Oklahoma person, so I'm sure. I'm sure you guys are probably used to it by now, but I don't know. I think 20 below is 20 below. I don't give a damn how long you live there. I mean, I wouldn't think. But.
Oh yeah, don't get that cold here.
Yeah, well, it typically doesn't get that cold in Anchorage either. It's like I live just a little bit north of Anchorage, a little town called Chugiak. But a cold day in the winter will be 10 degrees. It can get down to 0. It can get down to the negatives, but it's not common. It's normally, normal winter around. And it's weird. I don't know how to explain it because you're going to, throw the bullshit flag on me. But if it's 20 degrees in Anchorage, it doesn't feel like the 20 that you get here. I don't know how to explain it. It's not. I don't know. I don't know what the word. I can't tell you. It's cold, but it's like manageable cold. When it's 20 degrees here, it is cold.
Yeah.
It's tell you something. The winter that just went by, we got down to 15 a few times, and I had to work in it.
Mm-hmm. He likes the cold, though. He said.
Now, when I was young, I did. But now I don't. When I'm old now, dude. I'm like, my fucking bones are like. I guess getting old and brittle and shit or something because I'm like slow and it hurts to move around. I don't want to put that damn coat on and trying to do work and I'm Stay Puft Marshmallow Man trying to get out there and move around. Yeah,
I like cool, but I don't like cold. Like fall cool. That's my shtick. It
don't seem like this year's been different, but most of the time here, you know how it is. It's either hot
or cold.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's either motherfucking hot or cold.
Yeah.
That our fall in Alaska is pretty short, but it's awesome. I mean, it's pretty cool, and moose season, all the other stuff's going on for hunting, and it's beautiful time of year, and it's perfect to me. It's the right amount of cold where it might get up depending on where you're at, but around Anchorage, it'll get up around 60 or so in the day, and get around freezing at night, and that's like if I could just keep it around there.
Yeah.
See, I'm a big hoodie wearer, so if it's hoodie weather, then I'm right at home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this is good temperature.
Yeah.
I don't like it when it gets so cold that my hoodie ain't enough. You know what I mean? That's a gauge for me, but
nice.
That's how I do at work. We have to wear the stupid FRC, so I'll wear a hoodie underneath it. You know what I mean? So if it starts to get where that doesn't do it, then I start complaining.
Yeah.
That's when I start bitching. It's my threshold or wherever, my gauge on it.
Yeah, mine's I don't know. Lately, having to wear pants. That's a big no-go there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, I've been. Well, part of it, I dressed up for your podcast today. Well, I just got back from the Virgin Islands. I was telling you, it was a little vacation with wife, and then I get back here, and my dad had a motorcycle wreck, and so.
Oh no.
Yeah, a few months ago, and so he's kind of laid up, and him and my grandparents had a laundry list of chores. They've been working me pretty hard the last 2 days, and this fat boy is not used to this humidity. I've been just sopping wet and hot, and
it hasn't even been hot yet.
Yeah. But it was time to get out of those pants and boots, man. And I was like, I don't know what they're expecting here tonight, but I'm gonna wear some shorts and t-shirts and flip flops.
Is your dad okay?
Yeah. He busted his leg up pretty good, but he'll be all right.
He's been back at work for quite a while, even, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been back for a while.
Did he just lay it over?
It sounds like he was riding with another friend of his, and I guess he was too close to him, and his friend, I guess, lost control of his bike. And it hit a guardrail, and then it bounced from the guardrail and hit my dad in the leg, and that's what broke his leg. It was the other bike hitting him.
And your dad was still up on his?
Yeah, which knocked him down when he got hit. And, it broke his, I don't know, he's probably got 8-10 fractures in his I don't know, whichever the big one is, the fibia, your shin, his shin bones all, and then he had a fracture or two, and the little one,
You got the fibia and the tibia.
Yeah, I should know.
I think the
but I don't
tibia
remember now.
is the smaller one, I think.
yeah,
You'll have to catch me when it's not 2:00 in the morning, and I can remember.
yeah,
a little bit better.
yeah. It's one of the two.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a good break right there.
Yeah, he's got a big old pin the length of his shin, holding his shin together. But he's getting around. He's been back at work and stuff. He's just, he ain't running no marathons or nothing.
Is he done with the bike or?
No, his take on it is, it's kind of a freak occurrence, and he was too close to the guy. If he says if he'd been 10 yards further behind him, he would have just stopped and watched him slide. And the dude who laid his bike down was fine. He got a little bit of road rash, and that was it.
I know he really enjoys riding. Whenever I was working in the same place with him, we'd meet up and talk or whatever, and he was liking riding his bike. He was going whenever he could. So
yeah,
I hated to hear that he got hurt riding it. Because I know he likes to ride. So
yeah, like I said, I think it was kind of a freak deal, but
yeah,
it'll be all right. So
I've wrecked my motorcycle and I was not done with it. I was like, no, it never even crossed my mind to quit riding. Of course, I'm done with it now, but because I got kids. Can't really, people are texting and driving out there, so.
When you get to be your age, you don't just get over those kind of wrecks either anymore, Ben. You know what I'm saying? It takes a long time to get over that.
I'm not old like you are, sir.
Old, but you are. Creeping up on that 40.
But it never scared me, It never scared me. I was just like, hey, like your dad's, like, it's a freak accident. It wasn't freak for me. I was acting stupid, The first time I wasn't, but the second time I was. Yeah. And so it's like, some people are like, oh, no, I'm never getting on one again, But for me, I would love to get back on one.
Yeah.
The only thing that I had happen to me once that made me definitely not want to be a part of again was a DUI.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. It only took one round of that for me. So, wasn't no motorcycle. I've wrecked a motorcycle. I've wrecked a motorcycle
DUI.
Hundreds of times.
But DUI, you wrecked?
No, I was just talking about something that I did once that made me not want to do it again.
Oh.
Yeah, dude.
Smart guy.
Yeah.
They usually don't learn from the first one.
I learn slow, but I do learn.
That's a pretty quick learn right there.
I'm telling you.
Usually people are on their fourth or fifth, and they're still getting their sixth, and then their seventh.
If you like being able to drive and you like,
you like your freedom.
Yeah. And if you're 21 years old and you're trying to play music for a living, you can't drive anywhere. Yeah.
That's like a lot of stuff, especially, the most difficult missions I've flown have been in Alaska because weather and terrain and everything. And there's not one in particular that sticks out because it all starts off when you're learning. You're a brand new lieutenant and you're flying your first few missions. You push a little bit more than you do in training. You push the weather more. You push, different things more because you're trying to save someone versus just, checking a bean on, your counter. And when you're doing it at first, it seems hairy. And then as you get more experience and more comfortable with what the airplane can do and your crew, then the stuff that you thought was super sketch, you look back on, you're like, that was just a normal deal, But you have to have that experience to kind of build on to get to that level. I can't think of any in particular mission that was, whatever. We do a lot of crazy stuff, it's, and I think it's kind of like, joking about, fart humor and that kind of stuff. But I think a lot of it's kind of, I'm not saying like a coping mechanism, but every once in a while you stop and you think, because flying an airplane is kind of inherently dangerous anyway. And then you complicate that with doing weird stuff with an airplane, like flying it really low to the ground and right at stall speed and refueling another aircraft and
getting refueled
and dropping human beings out of your airplane into a remote nothing, hoping that they'll be okay. And it complicated with in some ways. I think that being an air guard unit, we all know each other. And so whenever when I kick a PJ out the door, I'm not just kicking out some nameless dude. I'm like, no, I know that guy. And, we have kept his kids and,
right.
we eat dinner together. It's a little bit different. And so, like you get the Krause humor, and I've kept it pretty PG here compared to what it's usually like. But like, but a lot of it's just because like you're doing stuff that's kind of silly, not silly. We train obviously to the point where it's not, ridiculous. But when you stop and look at what you're doing and think about it, it's kind of like, if you can't crack a fart joke, maybe you need to quit taking yourself so serious, Francis, kind of thing.
Well, to me, mentally, it would take somebody that can get to that level to not be eat up by the stress of it. You know what I'm saying? That way you're more, I guess you'd say, capable maybe mentally than someone else, that would be too focused in on what you're doing. I mean,
well, it's not that you don't take the job serious, of course.
Yeah.
And then what you do.
It's just, you got to have, light moments.
Yeah.
If all you're going to do is be like, well, we're going to, General MacArthur everything, or I'm in charge, and point A to point B, and, I'm going to quote regulations at you, like, dude, ain't nobody wanting to fly with that guy, or do anything with him. So, it's just kind of adapting and I don't know. You develop your own thing, and it's kind of like flying in general, and kind of like I was saying, where things seemed like they were hairy when you were starting, and then but it's like driving a car or something, the first time you ever drove a car or truck or something with a manual transmission, your entire world was focused around that stupid clutch and that gas pedal, trying to figure out what point that I need to put more gas in and how fast I got to release that clutch. And like, that's your whole existence, is trying to figure that out.
Right.
And then eventually, you incorporate the whole, like, looking outside and steering your wheel. And then, after you got it, then you're doing that while you're driving the thing with your knees. And, dudes are smoking a cigarette with one hand and drinking a beer with the other down the road,
Yeah.
Like we haven't seen that before, And, like, it's just one of those things you build on something.
Right.
Something starts off, just flying in general, like,
experience.
We're, talking about you landing an airplane if you had to or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's, if you had that experience and, it's, and you built on it, that eventually you'd be like, oh yeah, I can land that thing, it's just what it is. Not that that's the most practical thing, I haven't seen too many
of those.
Yeah,
happen.
I haven't seen, I've seen people ask for doctors, but not really. Is there a pilot? Oh my God. Need an emergency pilot now.
You're taking these commercial flights like when you go on vacation, and you're pretty confident you could land the plane if you needed to. If they did come on there and say, we need a pilot.
The pilot has died. Is there a pilot on board?
Yeah. My time to shine.
Don't anyone get, everybody stay calm. But the pilot
relax.
is dead.
Yeah. I'm a C-130 pilot.
Let me go ahead and drop this cape right here.
What happens if they do call for a pilot and there's no pilot on board? Holy moly. Yeah. Can you imagine? Oh, my gosh.
I could imagine trying to land a commercial, like, airliner.
Oh,
anyway.
gosh.
It's giant, I mean.
Yeah.
They're all kind of, they're not the same. They're all, the characteristics of the flight are all pretty similar, I
really?
mean, like, if I'm not saying it'd be pretty, but if you threw me in a simulator I feel confident, somewhat confident, a simulator of any heavy type aircraft, and let me know, here's where you read your airspeed, here's your altitude, here's your radar altimeter, whatever, the basic stuff I need, here's your instruments. And once I got that figured out, all I really need are stall speeds, and I feel pretty confident I could put the thing on the ground somewhat safely. I'm not going to say it's going to be pretty, and people are going to be, shedding a tear at how smooth the landing was or something, but I'm pretty confident I could get it on the ground safely.
Nice.
I think, when Dustin and I and some other buddies went to Mexico, we flew out of Tulsa, and I feel pretty confident that our pilot that flew us out was like an ex-fighter pilot maybe, because, we took off heading north, but we got to go south. Obviously, we're going to Mexico, but he banks us so hard to the right. Like, I mean, it's a giant plane. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm on the window seat because I hadn't flown in a long time. I don't think Dustin wanted the window seat. Anyway, And dude, we are I'm like, can this plane do this? You know what I mean? It seemed like we were like doubling back or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was just, I remember thinking then, I was like, I don't know if this is like flying a regular plane or not. You know, is this dude just newly out of something smaller?
Yeah.
You know, he's kind of scaring me a little bit, you know.
Flying that F-737. Yeah.
It was also the first time I ever paid attention to the fact that the wings move.
Flex,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That
they
was-
flex. Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, they sure look like they're about to break right off. You
Yeah, I'm
watch
like-
them, you're like, okay, this thing's
well,
just a little bit
even
more.
I have to admit, I'm just like, are they supposed to move that much?
Yeah.
That's a lot. You know, that's a lot.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Be better than I don't know. I've had this explained to me. Again, I fly them. I don't build them. But it'd be even scarier if they were so rigid they didn't bend, because that's when they would actually crack off at the root. You know, they gotta have
Yeah.
that flex.
They
be
gotta
able to
have the
deal with it.
flex.
Yeah. So.
Makes sense, but it's still scary looking when you don't know.
Yeah.
Whenever, my kids were, before I had kids and stuff, I didn't think about, for whatever reason. And it's not that I'm like trying to make it home to them or nothing. It's just like, I guess because I'm a parent, I'm more thoughtful about, just like I don't get on rides. You know what I'm saying? Why?
Yeah.
Shit looks dangerous to me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? When's the
Seems
last
like
time you
unnecessary.
greased that bearing? You know what I mean? There's a shitload of bearings on this thing.
The rush, man, the rush.
See, I don't enjoy the rush. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't take a ride in a fighter jet?
Yeah, but I'm talking about like rides at the fall festival in
Well-
Wilburton. You know what I mean? I'm not riding that damn thing.
Probably not going to get on one that goes upside down.
I'm not going to get on any of them. I'm sitting there looking at it and like,
Like the commercial goes, what happens if this thing breaks? We just go to the next town.
Yeah. Dude, that's fairly legit too, because I don't know if you ever paid attention to the folks who put those things together.
Absolutely,
but,
I have.
yeah, it's
Absolutely.
it's not exactly a confidence booster.
It's just like when I get in it, when I fly, I look the pilot right in his eyeballs. I want to see his soul. You know what I mean? I want to know what's going on. I want to make sure that he's.
My wife would argue if he's a pilot, he has no soul.
But I make sure I make eye contact if he's standing there, greeting everybody. I make sure, most people just walk on by him, don't even say anything to him. I'm like, hi, how are you? I'm like, no, I'm overly nice because, I don't want this flight to be your last. You know what I mean?
I'm always thinking, why does it look like he has like a ranking on his?
And I say thank you when I get off too. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for not.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Thank you for the
I do.
opportunity to thank you.
And
Yeah.
I do appreciate it. Yes, exactly.
Whenever we got there, when we flew to Mexico, we had to get off the plane. There was no jetway. We got off onto the tarmac, onto the runway. You know what I'm saying? And then there was dudes in there with guns standing around the airport. I am not kidding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was looking around. I was like, Dustin, do you see the guys with it? And of course, it doesn't look like an airport here. There was no, like the little, your luggage things revolving. No, there's none of that. So I'm sitting here looking around. I'm like, well, how the hell did we get our luggage? And you know who figured out how? Dustin did. Because he's taller than everybody else. He's like, oh,
It's over there.
our luggage is way over there.
Yeah.
But and that didn't do anything to make me feel more secure. You know what I mean? I'm just like, Jesus, dude. Did we fly into the right country? Is this Cuba? Where are we? Why does it look like this?
Yeah.
Well, we flew Air Mexico is what it was, by God.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, and Dustin set all of it up. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So he calls the travel agent and all that. So I'm at his mercy. I'm like, is this a Mexican pilot or is this an American pilot? He's like, it doesn't fucking matter.
It all worked out.
We're getting on the plane either way. LJ, so get on.
We're getting on the plane either way. That's funny.
Yeah.
Nice.
I always wonder if these guys were ex-military guys or not. I mean, I know you don't have to be, but I would imagine most of them are.
Yeah, I mean, the road, and I'm not an airline guy, but I know a lot of airline guys. They say it's a pretty mixed bag, probably 50-50.
Oh, really?
Military and civilian trained, yeah. I mean, the barrier to entry to be a commercial pilot is very financially guarded, because it's really expensive to go from never flying an airplane through all your ratings you need to, be an airline pilot.
So a guy that has no military background, it costs him a pretty penny.
Yeah,
to get
the hour. Well, not only the training, but then the hours required to. So your highest kind of rating is it's called an ATP. It's Airline Transport Pilot rating, and you need that to be able to fly like for Delta and American and all these kind of deals. And to get that, you have to have an unrestricted. If you're a civilian, I believe it's 1,500 hours to be able to qualify for it. So on top of getting your pilot license, your commercial rating, your instrument rating, your multi-engine rating, yeah, that's all you need. And then you need to get this ATP as well, and 1,500 hours. They say it's if you were doing it off the street, it's $100,000, start to finish.
And they don't make that much.
Not starting out,
some
they
of them,
don't.
right?
Once you get to the majors, the American Deltas, all that kind of stuff.
They make good money.
Yeah, their starting pay isn't great, but it's decent. But it's all union stuff. So I think, and this is just me talking to other airline guys, it takes about 5-6 years, and then you're making pretty good money.
Really?
Because it's all base pay. So like your base pay, what I've been told for most airlines, generally around $48,000 a year for your first year. So, $48,000 isn't that much, especially if you're one of these dudes based out of LA or something like that, But year two, the way it's explained, it goes up about $10,000 a year for your first 3 years. So within 3 years, you're making nearly $80,000 a year. And then somewhere around that year 5-6, you really make the jump where you're, north of six figures. The real big upgrade is when they make captain, when you go from first officer to captain. And that's when you go from making, $110,000 a year if you're high time FO, $120,000 to like $220,000, and then that's where they start making a lot of money.
So you coming from your position, if you were to try to go that route, it would take you, you don't get any seniority or
no,
special.
They give 0 Fs about what you've done in the military. Do you have the ratings or not? And if you have them, and then they hire you, you start day one like everyone else.
Do you have the ratings? How does that work from military?
Yeah, I've got everything. Yours? I've got everything except for the ATP, the highest one.
Mm-hmm.
There is no military equivalent for it. I'd have to go. It costs about $10,000. I'd have to go to a school. There's several of them around the country and get a few flights and take a check ride, and then I could get it. I haven't done it yet because, like I said, I don't really have a lot of interest in being a commercial pilot, so I don't really need it. But
dude, how would you like to? You gotta log hours flying these planes. I wouldn't like. Well, I guess you're a really experienced pilot by the time you're flying people around, even just trying to get your hours. But
yeah, well, in the military, it's easy. Someone else logs it for me. We have people that do that, so you come back and. It's even easier now, kind of, with the new J model airplane. The computer records your hours, so you don't even have to.
You have to like punch into it or whatever.
No, you put a card in, like a data card before you start the engines, and then you take it out, and somehow
it tracks you.
No, it tracks everyone who flew that airplane. So.
Oh, okay. So it has everybody's name on that card, basically, and you're.
No, just the aircraft information.
Oh, okay.
And so it's your job as the pilot to make sure that all the people that flew get credit for. All that stuff. So when you land, the maintenance guy will take this little card and print you off a piece of paper, and it'll have your takeoff time, your land time. And somehow, I don't know how it's smart enough, but it knows how many takeoff and landings you did. It knows what else? Full stop landings. Somehow it's smart enough to know. I'm not sure if it just registers like when the wheels touch and back off, or I don't know what they do. But
GPS maybe.
It's got to be I think a sensor probably in like a tire, not pressure, but a wheel sensor. There's weight on the wheel or something. I don't know. It's all magic. Like I said, I didn't build it.
You fly.
I was going to say, I listened to not your last podcast because I didn't know you guys had turned it out, but the one before, and you guys were cracking me up about. I was going to bring you both in an olive and cucumber medley here.
Oh shit, no, dude!
Keep a pot of coffee.
Cucumbers away from me.
I never heard of such. I never heard of anyone who has had such an aversion to Do either olives or
anything
anything I
cucumbers,
dislike that much. I don't know. It's just
Well, I mean,
weird.
like as I've gotten older, I hated onions when I was a kid and all this thing, and I've gotten where I'm fine with all that stuff,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's like that's gotten worse.
Yeah.
Since being a kid.
Well, I'll tell you where I've kind of, I guess, regressed is, like I made the mistake of introducing my wife, well, and Dustin too, to sushi, right? And I like sushi, okay.
Yeah.
Like every once in a great while. My wife will eat that crap. I mean, daily,
Mine
weekly,
too.
weekly. for
Southeast
sure.
Oklahoma will, and I don't get it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you?
And I'm like,
everybody from around here, everybody's like, oh, sushi. Yeah, I'm not like,
and as I've gotten
I'm
older,
with you on that one.
as I've gotten older, I like it even less.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, sushi, I would rather go. Well, especially I haven't got it yet. It's some Brahms. I can get damn Brahms hamburger before I get out of here. Like, 100% rather have meat and potato. I don't want your sushi.
Right.
I'm getting
I'm
more
the same
along.
way.
I don't like a process when I'm wanting to eat something. It's like I don't like crab legs.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like the taste of crab legs.
Takes a
but
long
I don't
time to
wanna
get
have
just
to
a little.
crack 'em.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to eat. I don't want to freaking
Word.
Never
I'm not a
mind.
hunter gatherer. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to have to, wrassle my food into submission to eat it.
Never mind that it's a giant water bug.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's very
Those things
true.
are like, I don't know. I'll eat crab and stuff. Again, my wife thinks the stuff's like a delicacy, and I'm like, I don't know. We could catch a spider and eat it too. It's the same shit. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. Like I don't know.
They get that exoskeleton.
Yeah, well, and it's like, what does it taste like? It tastes like butter because that's how everyone eats it.
Yeah.
Let's put a cup of butter on it and see what it tastes. Oh, it tastes like butter.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
I've never been big on crab legs.
Yeah. I'm not big on seafood in general. I don't know.
It kind of depends on what it is.
Really?
Yeah, I mean like with salmon and halibut and stuff like that.
I don't like
but
salmon.
I like it smoked. Is my favorite. But halibut and salmon, we do rockfish and stuff like that in Alaska. But yeah, I'm not a big seafood guy either. It's like I don't know.
Have you taken an Alaskan cruise?
No.
No need to, huh?
Yeah.
Because you've seen it all.
Well, I don't know about that, but like if I'm going to take a cruise, it's going to be somewhere that I don't live.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's like the glacier cruises to me. I don't really understand why people go on glacier cruises.
I've never wanted to go to Alaska, really.
Really?
And- yeah,
I'd like to
but
go.
I have seen some of the. I've seen some photos and some videos and stuff of the Alaskan cruises, and I want to go.
What for?
I don't know. I just want to.
I don't want to go on a cruise. That doesn't do anything.
Not really for me either. I think I would do it just to say I've done it before, but I'm not really.
All I ever hear is, everybody on the ship got botulism. Or, everybody got E. coli.
When somebody
You know
fell
what I mean?
off the.
And I'm like, okay, if everybody on this ship is getting the same shit, everybody's touching everything way too much. I'm good without it. You know what I mean?
Well, man, that's another thing I've regressed with age is just being in like crowded areas. I don't like, and I guess I didn't pay attention because we see cruise ships in Alaska. That I don't know, like Whittier and Seward and some of the port deals.
You fly over them ever?
Yeah, you see them, and they're big and everything. Dude, when I was in St. Thomas a few days ago, those cruise ships are another level of big. I bet they're putting 4,000 or 5,000 people on those things.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 Wilburton, Oklahomas worth of people floating around in a boat.
Yeah.
Everybody
crazy.
touching
Yeah.
the same handrail. You know what I mean? You got the same crackheads making your food. Nah, man.
I think I read today
Just
or
fecal matter
a couple
everywhere.
days ago about one that holds 6,000 people.
I'm not surprised. And that's what I'm saying is, like, I remember we had Travis on last week. He and Sherry went on a Alaskan cruise one time. And I was like, how was it? He's like, oh, it's all right. But they went and saw the glaciers and everything. I don't understand why you want to go look at big blocks of ice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Again, I guess I have seen a lot of those. We fly over. There's glaciers everywhere. It's one of those they do those cruises like, oh, glacier. Dude, if you were in Alaska, we could take off from my house in a few minutes in any direction. I can show you all kinds of glaciers.
There we go.
It ain't that big a deal. It's like, yep, they all look about like that.
They're a big old sheet of ice.
Yeah. Some are bigger, some are smaller. Yeah.
There's a lot of there's a lot of stuff in Alaska that I would like to check out. Definitely. I think I've told you about the guy that I worked with that had a cabin. they have like a homesteading program up there or something like that, where you go up there and you can stake off so much land in these areas and you can build. I think he built a cabin up there, and in order to keep it, there's a criteria. I can't remember exactly what it is, but he went up there and stayed by himself. Okay, he had a guy fly him in, stayed by himself for 28 days. Didn't see a human being or talk to a human being for 28 days.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Could you imagine going 28? Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're like, well, yeah, I can go.
No. I went on a fishing trip in Canada, and then we flew in on a float plane, and they dropped us off, and it was me and a couple of uncles.
Anybody?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, then.
No. What I'm getting at is I realized then how crazy it was to just see those dudes only. There was no girls. I was 16 years old. There was no girls, and there was nobody else, and there was nothing but just us.
Well, this guy went by himself, bro.
That's crazy. Yeah,
he said
that's insane.
When I was talking to him about it, because I was intrigued. I was like, so he was telling me first about the homestead thing, because everything he talked about was Alaska. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's from Oklahoma, and his uncle owned the company that I was working for. So they had money and things like that, but like he kept saying about Alaska. So I was like, well, what do you do when you go up there? What is it like or whatever? So he's telling me about it. He's like, I went and built this cabin. And that's what he did for 28 days. He flew lumber and some stuff in there, and he was building this cabin.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what about, did you see any bears? He's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then I got to thinking, okay, he's doing construction.
Yeah.
What if you fall and break your leg?
Yeah, you're bear turds then.
Dude, he ain't got a radio. He doesn't have. This man was going to come back and pick him up in 28 days. So what if on day 3 something falls on you? You know what I'm saying? Or you trip and break your leg or whatever.
Where we went to in that cabin on this lake, there was a story about a guy that was with his friends or family or whatever, and he died. Yeah. And they had to just put him on the porch, and I think they rolled him up in a blanket or something, and you have nothing. Now you maybe have service. I don't know there. Probably not, but back then you didn't. The guy with the float plane came, landed while we were there. I thought he was going to come up and, shake hands or, bring us some other food or whatever, He flew in and landed and opened his door, stepped out on his float, and he's like, "You guys okay?" And we were standing there, and I thought he was going to come over, and we were like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay." Gets back in his float plane, takes off, and leaves us there again.
Yeah, time is money, man. Well,
So yeah, I mean, and then when we got back, we flew back in on a some little resort or whatever, and one of the ladies the lady that owned it or whatever, she was an older lady, and it's the first lady I'd seen in a while, and I was like, "Oh, she's kind of pretty."
Yeah, dude, I knew it was gonna be like that.
I was like, "What? What are you?"
As soon as you said lady, I was like, "Oh God."
Well, I'm just saying, when you said the guy went there for 28 days alone, I can't imagine. When you hear about people getting, solitary confinement, I can't imagine. It's scary.
Well, think about this. I mean,
you would think, what's the big deal? You're by yourself.
Well, very few scenarios, though, are you going to get into where you go and you don't see any human interaction. Even in solitary confinement, somebody's got to bring you your food. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't touch them, you hear humans or that they're around. This dude, there was nobody. I was like, you never even saw anybody? He's like, it's a backside. I had to be flown in. No, I didn't see anybody. I mean, I don't know who I thought he would see. But,
did you ask him how he felt?
Yeah, I was like, well, what? He's like, I said, what was it like? Had you ever been alone for a long time before? And he's like, I had spent a week alone before hunting in Montana, because this dude's that guy. Yeah. He goes,
obviously,
he goes on safari and he does all these different things. And, he wanted to have a cabin in Alaska. So this was the easiest, best way he could think of.
These are the kind of guys that this guy's flying.
Saving.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not those guys a whole lot. It's more of the, like I said, the
Nobody building cabins, falling off the roof or whatever, and breaking their leg.
stuff like that happens occasionally, but I would say more often than not. I mean, for the most part, it's dudes flying airplanes, that crash is what we're after.
Well, and this was I think this was in the late 80s or early 90s, you know what I'm saying? So this was, I mean, there were no cell phones.
Yeah.
There was nothing, I mean, this guy was like, I think one of the people tried to talk him into not staying so long. And he's like, I was different. From then on, he said, I spent that much time alone that I felt different.
Really?
From then to now. He's like, it kind of changed me by that one experience. I was like, dude, I can't imagine, being by yourself that long.
Well, in Alaska, there's more planes than cars, just about, right? I mean,
I don't know about that, but there's a lot of planes.
Right.
I know proportionally compared to the rest of the country, there's a lot. Yeah.
So when you're flying, you see a lot of planes flying around.
Yeah, there's quite.
You're having to watch out, I'm sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot more so than anywhere else.
Especially a nice day, and around the, more populated or popular areas, there's little airplanes everywhere. Yeah.
How often do you fly to Russia? That's what we want to know.
Well,
dude, I'm legit. I think about that all the time when I think about you living up there.
Yeah.
That's how psycho I am. I'm like, what if the Russians cross? You know what I'm saying? They could be an international incident at any time.
When they get in the international area, we know about it.
Hey, they damn sure have had them up there too lately.
Yeah, we've had a couple, and we're kind of tied into that a little bit. But
you guys get alerts when that stuff.
It's just for the rescue stuff,
Well,
just
like that incident that just happened, right?
There's a few in the last week or two ago.
They said a couple days ago, I think, or 3 days ago, that one plane got real close when he went to intercept our plane.
Yeah, well,
but what does that mean when they say he got too close?
I don't know. I'm not a fighter dude. I don't know what they released, or they didn't swap paint, so I don't know. I don't know. I've seen Red Dawn. I know how this plays out. I'm not too worried.
I've seen Top Gun. I know exactly how it plays out.
Greetings. Well, that would be a weird thing. I would assume, I guess you're flying close to international waters fairly often and all that kind of stuff.
No, we don't. I mean, the fighter dude, playing that Russian 8 is for whatever they call it game. We're out there, pushing those boundaries and stuff, and we don't do that. We're in the interior, South Central Alaska.
You don't get up that far north ever or anything like that?
No. Well, it's really west more than north for Russia.
Yeah.
I mean, and north, I guess, depending on how you look at it. But
well, all I can see in my mind right now is the Bering Strait. You know what I mean? And like the two things getting. So I don't have a frame of reference for Alaska that would really count.
We don't go out there nowhere near that far. I'd say never, but I mean it could happen, but no, not a thing. So.
What's Russia gonna do when they go to try to intercept one of our planes and a couple F-22s show up?
Well, that's what happens all the time. Like, they usually are.
I'm saying a couple of our F-22s intercept their fighter jets.
That happened, I thought, just the other day, didn't it? Yeah, I thought they had.
I didn't know that.
This is touristy sounding shit again, Ben.
Yeah. I mean, nothing. Because it's all show of force stuff.
Right.
If they were actually trying to sneak in and bomb us, they wouldn't,
Right.
Whatever, make a production out of it.
Yeah.
So it's, it's kind of like when your wife's mad at you or something, she's not going to hide it. She's going to let you know,
Well, I think it's, I always felt like since Vietnam, really air-to-air shit is not really got that much chance of happening. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, the countries that do have things.
It's been a long time.
Any country that has comparable aircraft, I would assume probably knows that there'll be like these long-lasting ramifications. So we're all trying to trade with each other. So why would we sit here and shoot our planes down from each other? You know what I mean? It's kind of like, we're all it'd be like a bunch of guys that are really tough, a bunch of UFC fighters fighting for no money. You know what I mean? We're like, all this is going to do is cause us problems.
Yeah.
Right? Let's not do this shit.
Yeah, it's like everything though. And currently, it would be if there was a drastic shift in, geopolitical powers. If for some reason, I don't know what it would be, but there was some sort of resource that the world had to have, and one of the other major players decided they were going to, corner it up or whatever. It's kind of like looking back, today's D-Day or whatever, and Germany and all that stuff. It's like, right concoction of economic turmoil and a charismatic, crazy leader comes in, and you can talk people into doing crazy things. It's happened.
Well, to me, though,
sure.
with technology being what it is, I think it would take some sort of major step back technologically for anything, just like Hitler or something along that level. Like this guy that is in South Korea and all that. Is it North or South Korea? See, I can't even.
North.
It's definitely North Korea,
okay.
sir.
I don't even know the difference. But anyway, I'm just thinking of what little things I've seen on the news. I don't pay any attention to this shit. But, in my mind, though.
It's been North Korea for like a long time, not just the last couple of years.
I've never even met anybody from Korea, so I mean, what do I care? You know what I'm saying? That's how much faith I have in anything coming from there. You know what I'm saying? This is
right.
That's what I'm saying. It would take a major step back technologically for the world, because everybody's sitting there watching their TV and they're like, "Oh, who is this fat guy that's running that country now?
Yeah.
Oh, he's acting kind of stupid. Hang on a minute, people that are relatively close to that guy. Look, this does nobody good. I mean, you're about to screw up everything for everybody.
Yeah.
We're enjoying, now back when nobody knew what was happening outside their own country, you could stand there next to them and go, look, we're in Germany and these people that are around us are trying to take our stuff. Join me in the fight to liberate the world from this tyranny. And people would buy it. Now people would be like this. What?
Yeah.
I don't see shit about tyranny.
On my phone.
Yeah, what Fox News or what are you watching? What is this? What are we watching right now? Where are you getting this information from? And nobody's going to believe that. I mean, I just don't. That's why I like Raptors and all these air superiority things just don't really hold a lot of fast. They're not going to use them for anything.
No, but it's good to have them.
Well, I mean, everybody's got them. You know what I'm saying?
No, they don't have what we have, sir.
See, this is shit I'm talking
They
about.
do not have what we have, sir.
Well, I don't know if they do or they don't, but I know this. You're not going to see an F-22 Raptor shoot anything down except for some labeled target that they want to show you how cool they are.
They don't have anything we have.
Oh, I'm sure they got something comparable. I mean, for Christ's
Oh,
sakes.
not the F-22.
Oh, okay.
No, sir.
But the problem, well, I know it's a problem or good thing or whatever, any sort of like major global conflict with the major powers or the whatever you want to call them now, regional superpowers. Anytime you got a nuke, it's kind of like especially if you have a system to accurately place those nukes, i.e. Russia and China. You don't really need to, why spend a lot of money on things? You're not going to invade them. What are you going to do? Go ahead and make sure that they nuke you to the Stone Age, because that's what you're going to do, So, I don't know.
That's why I don't spend any time worrying about it, dude.
Yeah.
Just like these people talking about Korea and all these things are going to happen. I'm like, why are you wasting your energy sitting around worrying about somebody that's not going to do anything?
Yeah, for real.
Oh, he set off a nuclear, this unregistered nuclear weapon in his country. Mm-hmm. So what? You know what I mean? Who cares?
Yeah.
I'm pretty, I don't know. I don't get caught up in, especially things that are on the news. You know what I mean? Because to me, it's right up there with politics and how it's all roped into entertainment now. When you watch all these damn shows, and I don't care, even like Nightline, or I don't even know if that show's even still on anymore.
Nightline.
But whatever. Some late night news thing that, well, no, that's not late night now. Now it's 24 hours a day. We got your bullshit on tap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We got to sit here ready for you any time of the day.
I don't watch it. I do not watch
I
it.
get my current news from South Park. We already went over this.
Mm-hmm.
What are they going to cover?
I get my current news from whoever in the hell I've seen that day. I don't even, look past that,
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it past my little social circle, I guess. But that might be naive, but hell, I'm pretty damn happy for somebody that's got the whole world bearing down on them, supposedly. Everybody's about to kill us and nuke us and everything else. But.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of funny. It's like, every time there's a shooting or something, then, you start hearing the anti-Second Amendment people and the pro and all that stuff. And I saw this on, I'm not a huge fan, but I watch that Bill Maher show on HBO.
Yeah.
And, you know, every once in a while he says some stuff that's funny or on point. Most of the time I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but he had Steven Pinker on, who's like this. I think he's like a Harvard. I forget if he's a sociologist or I can't remember what he does, but he wrote this book about how we live in the safest time in human history or whatever. And I was listening to him on that Bill Maher show. This wasn't too long ago. And he was kind of pointing that out. He's like, you know, every time there's this mass, like, hysterical event, we all, you know, lose our minds and all this stuff. But statistically, right now, you're in the best time to be alive as a human being in the history of this planet.
Without question.
You know,
hell yeah. These are the good old days right now.
Yeah. He's like, so when you hear the, you know, the sky's falling, and he had all these stats to show stuff, you know, or whatever. He's like, hey, you're not dying from malaria, and, you know, cheetahs aren't eating you from the butthole first, you know. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff going on here, you know. Women don't die every, you know, 50% of the time that they have kids, you know. There's a lot going on, and he was like, so all the, you know, media hype and kind of BS associated with that 24 news cycle because they got to entertain you enough to keep you hooked to come back, you know. It's kind of just bullshit. It's like, well, look at reality. You know, we're doing pretty good.
That's always my argument. You know, it's like whenever people are saying these things about whatever the most recent argument point is, you know, especially between the political parties and that kind of thing like that. I'm just like, do you see it in your life though? You know what I mean? Like these socio. I'm not even sure how to say it necessarily, but I'm just like, I don't see these, like they talk about America's more divided than it's ever been. I'm like, no, they're not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is bullshit. Are you kidding me?
And there's a push to create division because, I don't know, I think it's partially entertainment. I don't know. This is my 2 cents, which is worth actually less than 2 cents. Both the Republicans and Democrats both seem to do this to me is they try to, what's the right word? They want group think, right? So to get group think, you have to divide the groups into like a recognizable subset, right? You have to be, you know, a evangelical, you know, whatever. You have to be a Latino or a black. You have to fit into a group. There has to be a group dynamic to associate you with, so that you can like divide all that up. And it's all like a source of power. It's so that you know which strings to pull to make what important today to buy a vote, to gain support. And man, everyone is so like, you know, team divided when it comes to that kind of stuff. It's getting to the point, it seems like, that as long as your team says something and I'm on your team, I'm going to agree with it. I don't care what it is, you know, and I'm going to fight and argue with you to the end of time.
But see, to me, that's why people were caught so off guard by, like, Donald Trump winning the presidency. Mm-hmm. You know, that caught so many people off guard because the way they usually quantify what would constitute a winner or a leader of an election like that didn't apply this time because it's like they had all nation, creed, color, whatever doing the vote, and you know, it turned out this way, and they're not used to that.
Yeah, well, and the fact that, you know, the Democrats ran possibly the worst candidate in the history of, you know,
and they have
civilization,
and that's the thing,
and they're fixing to do it again too.
Well, they don't have anybody. Who are you going to run? You couldn't run another Republican against Donald Trump and win. No one's going to beat him. And I'm not even saying, like, I don't mean to say that as like a Republican because I don't really count myself as a Republican. But I'm just saying as Donald Trump as the person. Yeah. There's nobody. You don't have anybody. Who are you going to beat him with? You can't. Well, for number one, they already know what he's going to do as a president. You know, I mean, you already got that on that side of it. And number two, you got all his skeletons out. You know what I mean? If they had a picture of him and Putin having sex with each other, he's still going to be elected president in the next election. I'm sorry.
Fake news. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
dude, it's just so funny, man. And I don't know. I've gotten more jaded when it comes to politics, especially since I've been in the military and seen some stuff that I think is kind of screwed up, starting with the Bush administration and, you know, some of the whole war thing, and then moving forward from there. I can go on about that forever, but these people that run, they're not how are you qualified to be the president of the United States? Like, you know, and then let's go back to Hillary Clinton and her. So she was a lawyer and she practiced law for like 13 seconds. Eventually got disbarred for ethics violations, if I recall correctly, or Bill, or maybe both of them. I can't remember. You've had a lifetime in politics and being married to a politician. You're a senator, all these appointed positions after that, and now you need to be president. Like you've never demonstrated like I don't know,
leadership qualities or anything else.
not only leadership, but you've only proven that you're only going to serve yourself. Like it's all these high positions that you've been appointed or pushed into, and like why would I'm sorry, and I don't even mean that as their besides her other flaws, she's got to. Like I said, if I'd done some of the shit she's done, I'd be locked somewhere underneath Leavenworth right now, and that's some of the stuff that aggravates me. That whole blind justice thing's kind of out the window. But all these dudes, like, how are you qualified to do this? And I think, step one is if you want to be president of the United States, that disqualifies you from being president of the United States. Like, why do you want that job?
That's why I laugh whenever people don't like Donald Trump as a president because he's just some old rich guy. I'm like,
oh, like all of them?
I'm like, what fucking president wasn't? You know what I'm saying? I mean, without question, I mean, this dude just isn't a career politician. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing about it is every politician that you ever thought wasn't doing the things that Trump talked about doing openly, you are mistaken, sir.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, any dude that's got that much money and that much time on his hands, when you don't have to work, and you're making decisions with a lot of money, you're going to get bored.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a lot of things at your disposal. You know what I mean? And you're going to utilize those things because the dude's going to be like, well, there's nobody around. And, I got enough money that nobody's going to tell anybody if I tell them not to.
Yeah. Step right in there. Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird deal. It's, I don't know. I don't have any solutions to any of it. I think the Congress, Senate, the whole thing that, there's a whole litany of shit like term limits. There's a lot of things they could do to make it better, but like they've got to somehow de-incentivize that career politician thing because that's all they are. That's minus the current president. That's what we've had my entire life. Career politicians. You could argue Bush, Jr. wasn't, but I'm sorry, go back and look at his track record. I mean, the dude ran a couple of failed businesses because he was a rich kid, and then politics, and then president. It's like he didn't do anything either. I don't know. It's a strange deal.
I laugh at it. It's kind of the only thing you can do to me, because if you really start thinking about it seriously, it's so asinine. What I mean? It's so preposterous.
Yeah.
The whole process is, what I mean? The whole, how do these people get to this point to where they can even run for president and all these kind of things? You start putting that stuff together.
Yeah. Congress, Senate, all of it.
It starts to, when, as an adult, as somebody who's now old enough that I've been around enough to know, like what makes people get wealthy, it doesn't happen by chance, and it's not by being smart, it's by focusing on money.
Yeah.
That's how you get to be rich. Yeah. Is you don't have to be intelligent to be rich. All you got to do is that be the only thing you care about.
Yeah.
It'd be like me and candy bars.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If candy bars is all I care about, I'm going to have a shitload of them.
Yeah.
If that's my main focus is getting candy bars,
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not rocket science, I mean, if you focus all your energy on it, if you're in a position, and you're asking people like these politicians, you're asking these foxes that are in the hen house to build doors to keep the foxes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, they're not, why would they do that? You know what I mean?
And their candy bar is the power itself, is my perception. Because you see these dudes or women or whatever, they get in there making $74,000 a year,
and all of a sudden they're worth millions
within a couple of years. Like, come on, dude.
And they're supposed to
they're
supposed to be letting ethics guide their decisions. And I'm just like, what makes you think? You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sorry, but it's like anything else, dude. I mean, these people, they're bored. You know what I mean? They're not working hard. Senators don't work hard. They're in session a few times a year, and the rest of the time they're chilling.
Yeah.
I was around a state senator one time, and I was just like, I was kind of taken aback, I mean, because I put a little prestige on, or I did, on that. I was like, oh, this guy's a state senator. You know, I mean, he's not just anything; he's a state senator.
Yeah.
Oh, this is pretty. This guy's kind of fancy, you know. And then you realize that he's just like he didn't have anything to do.
Yeah.
I mean, he took us out to eat, and he was nice to me, but he didn't have anything to do.
Yeah.
I mean, he's.
Yeah. What they spend.
No wonder he has so much money. That what else is there? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He's probably owned tigers like, you know, Mike Tyson. I bought tigers because what else? I could buy anything I want.
Yeah.
You know, I got tired of buying cars and I got tired of women wanting me for my money. So I want to, you know, this is the next logical step. I want shit that you can't have.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, why wouldn't Donald Trump want to be president?
Buy your votes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Donald Trump's like, I've done everything else. I've been on Letterman. You know, I've been this, that. All my life. Oh. I can't remember not knowing who Donald Trump was.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm old. You know what I'm saying? So he's been around a long time.
Yeah.
So what's a dude do that has all the money he wants and all the exposure he wants? He goes to be president.
Yeah.
Just because people think he can't.
And, you know, let's be honest, there's and not pointed to President Trump, but I think anyone who wants to be president, like I said, first disqualifier is wanting to be president, if I had my say. But there's got to be a touch of narcissism. Like, you want that spotlight on you, you know, or why else would you be, you know, want that job, especially when you're worth umpteen $1 billion.
That's what anytime somebody talks to me about playing music for a living, that's what I feel. That's why I never did it. Because it's like, okay, I can do this, right? I can do it on a level that people enjoy watching me or listening to me do it. All right, well, that's cool. But in order for me to do it for a living, I have to showcase myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's the difference between that platform and this platform. To me, we're just talking. Yeah. You know what I mean? This is just, you know, swapping ideas, telling stories, that kind of thing like that. So it doesn't feel as self-promoting as like playing music. Because I'm like, gather around and watch me do this thing. You know what I mean? And like you said, I mean, you have to want that light on you, or you know, I mean, that's why these people end up not being normal.
Yeah, you want to be the most powerful person in the world, single person. You know, that's. I know there's checks and balances and all that, but there's no single person more powerful than the president of the United States. You know,
and that's what I like about him is that's why you're getting more to me. And this is not political in any way. I'm saying this is why you're getting more action out of this president. Because what has he got to lose?
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah, true. It's not like you're not going to vote for him because he's actually, you know, he's doing things that kind of have been helping the economy and you know, a lot of other stuff. So it's like, you know, what are you going to say to this guy? Or what are you going to say about him that's not going to get him elected?
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't have anything. He's not running around trying to get elected to the school board next week or, you know, anything like that. He don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know, he's president now.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. Well, they all laughed at him and told him he couldn't do it. And he was,
Well, just like George W. You know,
beer.
now that he knows that he's been president and he's not going to be elected to do anything else, what's he do? Now his real shit comes out. You know, he's like, no, man, I like Obama.
Yeah.
You know, we agree with each other.
Man, I've heard from a million people, military-wise, who have worked up in the Capitol and stuff, doing like attaché duties and stuff. A lot of these dudes, these D's and R's that, you know, go to battle on the floor against each other, like as soon as the session's over, they're heading to the bar together. They're like all like best friends, and they put on a show basically for C-SPAN or whatever. Oh, look at these two senators battle it out, or congressmen, or whatever. And then, you know, the curtain closes and they're like, all right, Bill, let's head to the bar.
Just like attorneys.
Yeah. Yes, dude, they're all lawyers.
Yeah, they're all lawyers.
You know what I mean? This is definitely, I've made it no secret how I feel about lawyers. You know what I mean? These biggest swindlers that's ever walked the earth, as far as I'm concerned. You know, I mean, these people prey upon people, and they've also made the system to where you can't hardly navigate it without them.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, if you want to lose in front of a judge, just go represent yourself. Because then you're cutting out his, you know, because he was a lawyer at one time too. So, I mean, you're basically, it's a system set up self-gratifying, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you have to have it. And how in the hell are you going to change the political landscape if you can't even change our laws and the system we have for justice?
Yeah.
As goofy and cracked up as it is, you know what I'm saying? So it's a waste of time. See, I'm starting to rant.
Nah, man. I'm probably going to have to peel out of here pretty soon anyway.
Yes. It's 3:30 in the morning.
Oh God. Okay. Well, thank you, Major Duane Griffith,
Yes, very much so for
S.
coming on.
Preston Esquire.
Is that a Bill and Ted reference?
Yes, they're coming out with another movie. Have you
heard
not
that.
seen this,
I
dude?
heard,
I'm
yeah.
so fucking hyped. I want to watch it so bad.
Yeah, I haven't seen John Wick 3 yet.
I haven't either.
I haven't either.
Yeah.
I knew he went and watched it when
I
it came
could
out.
have
I
several
texted
times.
him. He was at work, but I texted him. I was like, "You better not be at the movies right now without me."
I wish
or
I was.
the podcast between you and me, it's going to be really odd.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard for me to act like I like you during the next podcast if you went and seen that movie without me.
Well, that we need to go watch it together so we can give our opinions whenever we have a podcast.
There you go.
Great idea.
There you go.
Or we could just do a live one right there.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody watching the movie
Well,
really
we'll just
appreciate what these
we'll
fools
wear
do.
the wired mics and we'll just put them right here and we'll be like, all right, we're here.
This is an awesome movie, and somebody's going to go on like this. Shh.
Yeah, listen
I'm
to
like,
you
you
like,
We're doing a podcast. We're doing a live podcast. Be quiet.
yeah, smacking your popcorn.
Duane, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks
Thank you.
guys. This is cool. Thanks
straight
guys
out
for
of
doing this.
straight out of Alaska.
Yeah.
They make any of those shirts?
They probably do. I don't know. They make all kinds of stuff up there anymore. I don't know.
Well, hopefully next time you're coming in, I don't know when that'll be, but maybe we can get you on here again.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
that was
or
awesome.
Or call in.
Thanks for
That would be awesome too.
We got to figure out how to do that. Do the call-in thing.
We'll get like a hologram of you right there.
We'll wait till you're like at work, and then we'll try to get you to call in.
I think this is cool. You guys are doing this, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Thanks for the invite.
We don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
We're hoping that
forever.
people that know you will want to watch it, you
Yeah.
know, and people that don't know you will want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people get interested in other, you know, like your life that you got going on is really interesting. I mean,
For
I
real.
know it seems like every day to you, but I mean that whole rescue squadron and all that kind of thing like that. That's pretty neat, dude. I mean, you know,
Very
they,
cool.
they wouldn't be talking about making series out of, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that.
Documentaries.
Yeah.
Well, that's in the works, possibly, that documentary about it and all that kind of thing. I mean, that don't happen. They're not going to make any documentaries out of amine plant operating. I promise you that on 6 Mile Lane in Wilburton, Oklahoma. And there's been no camera crews. I'll say that anyway. They might have implanted a mule in there, or mule, by the way. But
And anytime you want to land a C-130 out here, I would love to go on a ride.
I'll make sure to give you a heads up.
I've seen the inside of one time at an air show. It was this. There was nothing covering the wires and shit on the inside of it. It's like plain Jane.
Yeah.
Like cargo nets to set on, I
Oh,
guess. and
yeah.
all that.
Well, get into that, lowest bidder and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's
cool.
wrap this up.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
I Don't
it.
Drink Coffee podcast. This episode brought to you by BlacklineInsurance.com.
Yep. And
Blackline Insurance Group. I messed my own freaking website up. Are you kidding me? BlacklineInsuranceGroup.com. Sorry.
and LucasJohnson.com. Not really. I don't even know what to call it. My YouTube
I don't even want
channel.
to get into that. You can search. I'll say it again. Like I say it all the time. You can go on YouTube.
Put your own URL in.
No, I'm just saying.
I don't know how that. Well, I don't know
to
what
the
hell that even
viewers, if you
means.
want to find Lucas Johnson, he's got some pretty cool music videos of him singing. Type in Lucas Johnson, Luke Combs,
It sucks so bad.
because he did a cover, and that's the easiest way to find his YouTube. What do you got to plug?
Plug. Oh, yeah. If I was going to plug anything.
You didn't tell him ahead of
I
time.
told him. He
Oh,
knows.
you did. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot. If I'm going to plug anything, I guess, I believe he's online and on Facebook. We got a dude, the 210th up there, flight engineer, who was a coffee man on the I Don't Drink Coffee podcast, I guess. But Alaska Rescue Roasters, if you want to look that up. Order some coffee from him. He's a good dude, and a percentage of that of his profit goes to the So That Others May Live Foundation, which is a organization that helps folks in the rescue community who've lost or had injured people in the line of duty and in combat and all that kind of stuff. So
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. And
I'll
what was
check
it
that
again?
out.
One more time.
it's Rescue Roasters, Alaska Rescue Roasters.
And you can find it on YouTube or on Facebook.
It's on Face. I know he's on Facebook. I think he's on Instagram. I'm not 100% sure,
Okay.
but I know
Should be
it's
pretty
good
easy to
stuff,
find.
So
I'll look it up and then post the
yeah.
post the
That's cool. I'm going to find out more about it too. I'm pretty interested. That's a good plug. That's probably one of the best plugs we've had.
Yeah, it by far is.
I mean, it's either that or Blackline Insurance, whatever.
Blackline Insurance Group. I can't even believe I've messed my own website up, and I'm going to have to leave that in there too. But Blackline Insurance Group.
Oh, well, at least we've said it like 900 times.
If you need insurance, give me a call.
I need insurance, and you won't give me insurance.
Can you beat the general?
Yeah, big time. And
I'm in the middle of a claim right now.
I can't beat the major, but I can beat the general.
Oh, God.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, that was cheesy, but anyways, I didn't never say I wouldn't give it to you. You haven't called me.
I'm in the middle of a claim.
I make it easy, okay? I make it easy.
I'm in the middle of a claim.
Go to blacklineinsurancegroup.com, and you can initiate the whole process, or you can text me, or you can call. I have 2 numbers.
Ugh.
I know. I make it easy, though.
Then I have to hear your voice.
Right. So just text it.
Whatever.
Just text me the info.
Whatever.
I make it easy.
All right, then.
That's the beauty about it.
All right, I'm going to go online and find all these things except for my YouTube channel. I won't be finding it. But
All right.
all right, well, I guess have a great day.
Love your body.